Chapter 887. The illumination of the sun and moon had already disappeared. The dark side of eternity had already activated the power of the stars, turning the previously bright sky into a dark night. The nine nether insidious poison cloud rolled and pounced over. On the ground, 8 crevices snaked forward like tentacles and forked lightning bolts, desperately extending. A golden Buddha's palm, at least 100 meters long, came crashing down like a small mountain. The 4 heavenly kings' 5 killer moves covered the sky and covered the sun. It was like the dark side of the 5th heaven, chaotic and cruel. Suddenly, a green mist ignited in Lu Chen's eyes. It was even more conspicuous against his white skin. Then, he gripped the limitless demon sword and turned into a white light, instantly shooting out. Heaven Breaker didn't have the ability to jump through space like Prometha. From this point alone, it could be said that it was just an ordinary sword energy. However, this sword energy was too fast. This was no longer the speed of an ordinary sword energy. When people saw the white light, it had already shot 1,000 meters away. In the blink of an eye, Lu Chen was already standing behind the 4 heavenly kings. Heavens, so fast. The 4 heavenly kings couldn't react in time. That's not right. He attacked from the front. But how did he pass through the dark side of eternity, 9 serenities poison, heaven patching palm, and heaven splitting earth? It's fine if he passed through those killer moves, but how did he pass through the 4 heavenly kings' bodies? Everyone's eyes widened. They found it hard to understand Lu Chen's sudden appearance. The Black Qilin turned and stared at Lu Chen. What skill? You're actually able to pass through our skills and bring your body through our bodies. The White Dragon frowned. I was careless. I actually let you dodge. The Torch Dragon said coldly, I thought you were strong. Didn't we force you to use such a powerful displacement skill to save your life? The Black Qilin sneered. Solipsistic, you're quite arrogant, but that's all there is to it. Don't think that this is all we have. That was just the appetizer. The real show is about to begin. Before the word begin could be said, the Black Qilin's expression suddenly changed. Then, it suddenly lowered its head and looked at its chest. A moment later, it looked at the back of the figure in front of it in horror. They had said so much just now, but Solipsistic didn't pay any attention to them. He didn't even turn his head. He only let out a long sigh of relief, adjusted his breathing, and then, stopped. The finishing move must be done well. After all, this was the best part of what Lu Chen had learned. The other 3 heavenly kings seemed to have realized something at the same time. They all looked at their own spiritual cores and then looked at the figure in shock. You, Lu Chen finally spoke. Save my life. Do you think you can threaten me? You're already so old, why are you still so naive? Next time, remember, in front of me, it's best to use your strongest skills from the start, otherwise you won't have a chance to use them. Oh, there shouldn't be a next time. Suddenly, a violent explosion came from behind. The Immortal Cultivator Army and the Demonic Beast Army all looked at the scene before them in horror. The dozens of starlight pillars on the side of eternal darkness suddenly shattered like glass. The huge palm print of the heaven-patching divine palm directly exploded. The fog of the 9 netherseen poison was rapidly compressed until, it was compressed to a point and turned into pure spiritual energy, causing a violent explosion. The ground suddenly shook violently, and the entire East Peak Plains shook violently. The defending army and the demonic beast army almost couldn't stand still. Then, in the direction of the white light, a crack of thousands of meters appeared on the ground instantly. This kind of crack was completely different from heaven and earth splitting. Heaven and earth splitting was the gradual cracking of the ground caused by the spiritual energy of the skill hidden underground. But this time, it was a direct collapse. The crack was perfectly straight, and in an instant, it was thousands of meters wide. The crack was as deep as a cliff, as if the ground had been directly split into 2. Heaven and earth splitting. It had already disappeared without a trace. Cowherd, who was watching from afar, almost dropped his jaw. This was caused by the residual power of the sword just now. That sword was too strong. With a boom, a bloody hole suddenly appeared in the chest of the black Qilin. The beast core shattered. The shattering of the spirit core and the self-explosion of the spirit core were two different things, but without a doubt, the result would be death. Then, the white clam, corpse Kuan, and torch dragon were not spared. A series of explosions came from their huge bodies, and blood and flesh flew everywhere. Their beast cores shattered. The huge bodies of the torch dragon and corpse Kuan directly fell from the sky with a loud boom. The bodies of the black Qilin and the white clam fell to the ground. Only shock was left in the eyes of the four heavenly kings. How is this possible? You haven't activated soul body as one. You're only a one-star cultivator. No matter how strong your body's attack is, it's impossible to penetrate my beast core. The torch dragon looked at the back of the figure in shock. Lu Chen's back was facing the torch dragon as he said indifferently, dripping water can penetrate stone, willow leaves can break gold, and weak grass can split stone. What you think is impossible in my eyes. After saying that, Lu Chen didn't stay any longer and walked toward the demonic beast army in front of him. Behind him, the countless defenders were dumbfounded, their bodies frozen. Is this the power of heaven-splitting sword? It's too terrifying. It's simply invincible. The four heavenly kings instantly killed the 7 gods, and the origin god killed the 4 heavenly kings in one move. This, my god, his strength is already unimaginable. Is that really a human? How can a human be so strong? His physical body isn't complete yet, so how can he have such terrifying battle strength? Without a doubt, he's not a human. Xuanling took a deep breath. Although she was stronger than before, when she saw Brother Du Kuang's sword, Xuanling knew that she had to work harder to surpass him. Beishu Agufei kept shaking his head, nameless, can't you give me a chance? He pulled Lu Yi's hand, can you talk to your brother and change the condition? Any condition is fine. Lu Yi saw that her brother had killed the 4 heavenly kings and finally heaved a sigh of relief. She smiled, then you can talk to my brother yourself. After speaking, Lu Yi turned her head and looked at her brother's back. Her eyes were filled with pride, relief, and joy. Brother, you're really strong now. However, right at this moment, Lu Chen staggered a step. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Perhaps some people thought that solipsistic's injuries weren't serious, but immediately after, Lu Chen knelt on one knee and kept spitting out blood. Large mouthfuls of blood could not be stopped. Everyone's hearts, which had just been put at ease, were now in their throats again. Brother. Lu Yi's eyes reddened. He was fine just now, how could? Dongfang Ji frowned, it must be that move just now. That move, heaven-piercing sword, is indeed powerful, but without using soul body as one, it also caused a terrifying amount of pressure on his physical body. That's right. We've only seen the power of the heaven-piercing sword, but we've forgotten how terrifying the burden on Mad God's body is. He even lost an arm. Why did he avoid using soul body as one? Mad God, that guy will definitely come out. Xing Chen said anxiously. In the crowd, Ergo looked at this scene in shock and suddenly couldn't help but cry. Ergo. Luo Yao held Ergo's shoulder. Ergo looked at Luo Yao with tears in his eyes. Jade Emperor, he is the origin god, he is the origin god. Luo Yao didn't understand what Ergo meant. What? He didn't use soul body as one, he used his real body. He is telling us that even if he uses his real body to cultivate, he can still be so powerful. Luo Yao suddenly woke up. He looked behind him. Countless natives were already in tears. Yes, others might not understand why Solipsistic would rather be severely injured than use soul body as one, but those who were familiar with Lu Chen knew that Lu Chen had an even more powerful skill, Divine Demon Heaven's Wrath. However, he didn't use anything and only used his real body to fight. Even if he had the Origin God's token and fought for the natives, he was still an immortal cultivator. This was an unchangeable fact. However, at this moment, he had truly become the Origin God. With the body of a mortal, heaven-piercing sword. Chapter 888. Perhaps the cultivators did not understand, but the Aborigines did. Dripping water could penetrate stone, willow leaves could break meridians, and weak grass could split stone. This sentence was not for the dying torch dragon, but for the Aborigines. Ergo clenched his fists tightly. He looked at the Solipsistic and coughed violently. Every sound seemed to hit his young heart. Tears flowed uncontrollably, but his eyes were wide open. Before, the Solipsistic only fought in the name of the Origin God, but now, in the hearts of the Aborigines, he was the real Origin God. Origin God. Thank you for everything you've done for us. Someone in the crowd said in a choked voice. Origin God. Ergo suddenly shouted at the top of his lungs, don't die. Kill the demonic beast supreme. Origin God. Kill the demonic beast supreme. Origin God. The Aborigines roared louder and louder. The Aborigines, who had been oppressed for thousands of years, erupted with an imposing aura at this moment. Even the demonic beast army and the immortal cultivator army could not help but be shocked. Their dead hope had returned. Thousands of years of oppression had all erupted at this moment. Luo Yao's eyes were already wet. She looked at the somewhat tired back and felt like a knife was being twisted in her heart. At this time, he still wanted to rekindle the Aborigines' confidence. The surrounding cheers finally made Luo Yao understand. Although he could make people cry, but it was this guy who could make people's blood boil. Luo Yao wiped away her tears and picked up the red ribbon in her hand. She smoothed out her soft hair with both hands and tied it with the red ribbon. Thank you for your gift, I like it very much. Luo Yao looked at Lu Chen's back with tears in her eyes. His blood dyed the ground in front of her red. Luo Yao's tears flowed uncontrollably. Nameless, you must live on and see if the red ribbon looks good on my head. Lu Chen held his chest, feeling like his body was about to fall apart. Little Green, a purple-clothed woman appeared beside Lu Chen. This set of clothes was newly bought for her by Lu Chen. Boss, quickly eat this blood-solidifying pill. Lu Yi helped Lu Chen up, her heart aching. Fortunately, I have you. Lu Chen forced a smile and swallowed the pill. I'm fine. You can go back. That guy should be here soon. Lu Yi's eyes were full of reluctance, but now was not the time to delay. She could only hold back her words. The grade of the bone blood pill was very high. After all, it was made by Lu Yi and it was for boss. It definitely wouldn't be bad. Lu Chen immediately felt better. I've vomited so much blood. I'll have to replenish my body when I get back. Lu Chen shook his head and continued walking toward the magical beast army. He heard the shouts behind him. Lu Chen smiled. He had finally fulfilled his promise to the Origin God. Little Furball's battle was probably about to end. There was only one thing left. Lu Chen was seriously injured and vomiting blood. His limbs were also badly damaged. However, with every step he took, the magical beast army in front of him had to take a step back. The 7 magical beast generals were all staring at Lu Chen. The magical beast army of millions was on high alert. Lu Chen was also depressed. He had walked dozens of steps, but he still hadn't closed the distance between him and the magical beast army. What was going on? Should he fight or not? What kind of tactic was this? Was he trying to kill himself? He finally stopped. The magical beast army also stopped. Lu Chen finally understood. They were waiting for that guy. Magical Beast King, are you still not coming out? Lu Chen shook his head. It's time to end the matter between us. Not long after reaching the fifth heaven, Lu Chen released the Magical Beast King. It could be said that from the beginning to the end, the fate of Lu Chen and the Magical Beast King that he had only met once was tightly intertwined. Now, it was time to end it. At this moment, in the sky behind the Magical Beast army, dark clouds rolled, lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and the wind howled. Seeing this, Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. If he guessed correctly, the Magical Beast King hadn't appeared before because it hadn't evolved to its complete form. However, if he hadn't appeared, the 4 heavenly kings of the Magical Beast army would have been enough to conquer the East Peak Plains. However, now that there was a strange phenomenon in the sky, it looked like that guy was about to appear. As expected, a gust of wind soon swept over the battlefield. Dark clouds gathered overhead, and bolts of lightning streaked across the sky. A huge black shadow suddenly appeared in the distant sky. It shuttled through the lightning and galloped in the storm. Roar! A roar resounded through the sky. Little Beast God and the rest had already taken care of 3 war gods. The remaining 2 were also seriously injured. Hearing the roar from behind, Little Beast God ignored the opponents in front of him and turned to look at the sky. Like an expert who was provoked, Little Beast God also faced the sky and let out a roar. Although Little Beast God looked like a teenager, his roar was not inferior to that guy in the distance. At the same time, the afterimages of 3 mythological beasts appeared on his body, making him look like a king descending with an astonishing momentum. Lu Chen turned to look at Little Beast God. The roar of the Magical Beast King seemed to have angered Little Beast God. This guy seemed to be very angry. However, Little Beast God was still too young. It was still too early for him to deal with the Magical Beast King. Little Beast, I asked you to kill the 7 gods. Have you done it? Lu Chen asked. Lu Chen's words silenced Little Beast God. He could only lower his head and vent his anger on Yugui. This child is so worrisome. Lu Chen shook his head. Not long after, the huge black shadow arrived in front of the Magical Beast army. It was in the shape of a huge dragon, but it had a pair of huge wings. It was the legendary divine beast Ing Long. As it landed, its huge body shrunk at the same time. When its feet touched the ground, it had already turned into the shape of a man. Seeing this man, Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. He only felt that he looked very familiar. After thinking carefully, he remembered. Magical Beast King's current appearance was the appearance of the fallen scattered immortal under the heavenly lake. At that time, when Lu Chen touched the scattered immortal's body, it turned into powder and disappeared with the water. Even if it had been soaked in the water for many years, the first thing to rot should be the flesh, and finally the bones. At that time, Lu Chen only thought that this guy was a scattered immortal, so maybe it was different. However, after thinking about it carefully, there seemed to be another possibility. Magical Beast King had already eaten the scattered immortal's flesh and bones. Solipsistic, we finally meet again. Magical Beast King said with a smile. It seemed that the death of the 4 heavenly kings had no effect on him at all. It's a pity that you seem to have suffered serious internal injuries. Otherwise, I would like to experience your heaven-piercing sword. Magical Beast King was not the least bit flustered. There was a hint of regret in his eyes. TSK, TSK, TSK. It's rare to see a move that can make me look forward to it. In the end, you can't use it. What a pity. Lu Chen stared at Magical Beast King. Sure enough, the moment this fellow appeared, the feeling he gave him was, this guy, was very strong. Chapter 889. In the center of the battlefield stood the 2 strongest level 5 experts. Although this was not the first time they had seen this scene, the experts of Earth could not help but feel their hearts hanging by a thread. The natives stared at the two. The previous origin god did not hesitate to explode his spirit pill to defeat Devil Beast Sovereign. However, 3,000 years later, Devil Beast Sovereign was reborn in an even stronger state. This time, could their new origin god still win? Someone suddenly said, "Origin god is only a one-star cultivator. Even if he explodes his spirit pill, he should not be able to kill Devil Beast Sovereign." After he finished speaking, the people around him all turned to glare at him. What are you looking at me like? I am just analyzing rationally. Of course I do not wish for Origin God's spirit pill to explode. Shut your crow's mouth. Listen kid, Origin God will definitely win. Yes, Origin God will definitely win. Luo Yao heard more and more natives repeating this sentence behind her. She was very clear that based on the current situation, Solipsistic was at a great disadvantage. It was impossible to say that he would definitely win. However, she could understand why these people said this. This was a kind of belief, an incomparably firm belief. When Sovereign Magical Beast heard the commotion, a relaxed smile appeared on his face. He then turned to Lu Chen and said, "Lone Tyrant, they say that you'll win. That is so cute. I am afraid they cannot understand that in the face of absolute strength, the plot cannot be reversed." Lu Chen smiled, "I agree with this point. That is why you are in my hands. Seems like you are still so confident." Devil Beast Sovereign smiled calmly. He then raised his head and took a deep breath. His face was filled with intoxication. 3,000 years. Coming back here again, the air is so fresh. How nice, this is my heaven. A large number of my kind worship me as king. There is also endless food to enjoy. Compared to spirit stones, I still prefer your bodies. Suddenly, Devil Beast Sovereign stopped smiling. His gaze was sharp. 3,000 years ago, Tai Xing actually used his spirit pill to explode and seriously injured me. He even tried to use the Heavenly Lake spirit vein to destroy my body. Unfortunately, he definitely did not expect that I did not die. Not only am I not dead, but I've also absorbed spiritual energy from the Heaven Lake's spirit vein. Once I become stronger, I'll even be able to kill a loose celestial. After my second death, my body was strengthened by the Heaven Lake's spiritual vein again. However, I could no longer break free from the Heaven Lake's spiritual vein's restraint. I almost became a part of the spiritual vein. 3,000 years, 3,000 years. It was the origin god who trapped me under the sunless Heavenly Lake. For the past 3,000 years, there hasn't been a moment when I haven't wanted to kill origin god. What a pity that he's already dead. Every time I think about this, I'm about to go mad. But fortunately, you appeared. Not only have you saved me, you have also become the new origin god. Ha 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 ha, do you know? You are simply sent by the heavens to save me. You are here to make up for all my regrets. A cruel look appeared in the eyes of the Devil Beast Sovereign. Don't worry. Whether it's you or the natives, I'll treat you well. I will make you suffer the same torment as I did. Lu Chen looked coldly at the Devil Beast Sovereign, who was close to going crazy, and said coldly, "Is that so? You really know how to flatter yourself. I'm not familiar with you. Why do you think that I will help you make up for your regrets? Not only do you have regrets, the origin god didn't completely kill you back then. This is also his regret." After saying that, Lu Chen actually kept the limitless demon god sword, stood up straight, and looked indifferently at the Devil Beast Sovereign. Let me help him finish this unfinished battle. The Devil Beast Sovereign was already excited. Help the origin god or help me, I'm afraid it's not up to you. Transformation, Stage 2 Divine Beast. The Devil Beast Sovereign's entire body erupted with astonishing spiritual energy. With him as the center, billowing black air waves surged around him. The sky was covered by dark clouds, lightning flashed, and thunder roared. In the East Peak grassland, the ground directly split open, and the soil instantly turned black. Heaven and earth were in chaos. This burst of spiritual energy was even more terrifying than the simultaneous transformation of the four heavenly kings. The fierce wind already made people unable to open their eyes. The devil-beast sovereign was like the strongest king in the world, ruling over the world. On a slope far away, Xian Zhen was already dumbstruck when he saw this scene. My God, Stage 2 Divine Beast's body. Why is that fellow still in the fifth layer of heaven? With this kind of strength, he would have already gone to the sixth layer of heaven. Living Buddha's voice also sounded weak, he is doing it for revenge. The revenge of being defeated by the origin god 3,000 years ago. No wonder he has the strength to defeat a loose immortal, he is already a stage 2 divine beast. It's over, these fifth layer of heaven are hopeless. Solipsistic had already suffered a backlash from the heaven-piercing sword earlier. His physical body was heavily injured. Now that he has activated soul body as one, his battle power will also be greatly reduced. Moreover, even if he is in his peak state, he will definitely not be able to defeat a stage 2 divine beast. Senior Living Buddha, is there really no chance of winning? Didn't you say that the stars have shifted and the constellation has changed? Living Buddha sighed, it has changed, but, from the looks of it now, it seems to be even worse than before. A stage 2 divine beast with a heart filled with hatred will turn the entire fifth layer of heaven into hell. Xian Zhen was still unresigned. Solipsistic, can Solipsistic still win? Is it not him who caused this change? I also do not know. Maybe it is him, maybe it is not him. But now it is no longer important. The change might not be a turning point, it might be even worse. You have also seen it for yourself. Under this kind of situation, do you still think there is a chance of winning? Let's go, Devil Beast Sovereign is going to start a massacre soon. I do not want to die under his resonance. Resonance? Will I die very miserably? Since the birth of the seven gods, they have already confirmed that those corpses in the Spirit Stone Mine are the work of Devil Beast Sovereign. It is said that Devil Beast Sovereign can control the frequency of resonance. When it is fast, the enemy's internal organs will instantly explode. When it is slow, you can clearly feel the internal organs and bones breaking inch by inch. In short, that is not a pain that ordinary people can endure. Even if I kill myself, I do not want to die like that. Xian Zhen stared blankly at that somewhat frail and incomplete back view. Even if no one thought that he could win, he was still standing in front of Devil Beast Sovereign, not moving an inch. He had already used heaven-piercing sword, his eyes were injured and his limbs were badly damaged. And the one he was facing was a super expert who had been strengthened by Heaven Lake Spiritual Vein twice, a stage 2 divine beast, Devil Beast Sovereign. Under this kind of situation, victory was already an extravagant hope. Now, would he feel fear? Senior Living Buddha, I do not want to go. Xian Zhen suddenly said in a deep voice, dying early or dying late, what difference does it make? You actually did not listen to me. Senior Living Buddha, I am just tired. Along the way, we have tried our best to decipher the prophecy, but in the end. But that person, no matter what kind of situation he is facing, he dares to move forward. I do not have his strength, but I admire his courage. Since he is going to die anyway, let me see him finish this last battle. Chapter 890. Watching as the autarch demonic beast completed its transformation, Lu Chen also made his move. Is he about to use soul-body fusion? Everyone stared at Lu Chen nervously. In the entire fifth layer of heaven, the number of people who had seen Lu Chen's soul-body fusion could be counted on one hand, except for the destroyed Azure Dragon sect. However, this time, Lu Chen still did not use soul-body fusion. It was as if he had forgotten that he was an immortal cultivator. Could it be, that move. Xiao Yao Feng was nervous again. Although it was not soul-body fusion, Mad God still had another move that was equally terrifying. God and Devil Heaven's Wrath. Lu Chen shouted. Devil Heaven's Wrath. Many of the immortal cultivators present felt their attributes drop a little. Although it was only a little and almost negligible, the next weakened state almost made them collapse. Damn, in 3 days, my body and battle soul's attributes will drop by 90%. Hey, why did he use a skill? My attributes are going to drop. This is his Heaven's Wrath skill. Although I also hope that he will win, but, this is too much. Of course, there were also some experts who were not affected. It should be because their Heaven's Wrath had reached level 4. However, these people were in the minority. At the same time, Lu Chen directly activated Heaven's Wrath. Original God needs our attributes, I am willing to give them all to him. Since none of us can defeat him, I am willing to contribute all my attributes. Unsurprisingly, the natives were willing to provide him with Heaven's Wrath. 2 million attributes, the all-creation bloodline increased his attributes by 10%. Close to 5 million attributes, all added to spiritual energy. The huge change in spiritual energy caused Lu Chen's body to erupt with a terrifying spiritual energy storm, crazily surging outwards. Heaven's Wrath and Devil Heaven's Wrath? You have dual Heaven's Wrath? Devil Beast Supreme narrowed his eyes, using other people's attributes for my own use. This Heaven's Wrath is a little interesting. Unfortunately, you still have to die. Devil Beast Supreme shouted and then opened his arms. I don't want to waste any more time on you. Next, feel the gift that I have specially prepared for you. Stardust, Resonance. The group of people almost vomited blood. They had never expected that the magical beast sovereign would use Stardust Resonance as soon as he made his move. In an instant, with the magical beast sovereign as the center, the earth and stones in the vicinity crumbled into powder, while the plants were instantly disintegrated into ashes. The ground beneath his feet directly collapsed. Before the crushed stones could fall, they had already turned into ashes and were swept up by the strong winds. The magical beast sovereign floated in midair, looking down at Lu Chen, and laughed wildly. Ha 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 ha, have you felt the power of a god? You may be the solipsistic emperor, but in this world, I am the supreme being. Right now, the range of the Stardust Resonance was still gathered around the magical beast sovereign. He seemed to be deliberately showing off. Your predecessor was nearly killed by this move of mine. Right now, my Heaven and Earth Resonance has already advanced to Stardust Resonance. No matter how strong you are, no matter how many layers of Heaven's might you have, in front of me, the result will be the same. Die a horrible death. So what if there are hundreds of millions of immortal cultivators? I can slaughter tens of millions in one move. Solipsistic, what happened to protecting the natives? Even if you can hold on, can they? Now, you are going to die with them. Resonance, open. The immortal cultivator army had already gone crazy. The Heaven and Earth Resonance mentioned by the 7 gods only had a range of 10 miles, but now, the magical beast sovereign's Heaven and Earth Resonance had already advanced. One person could slaughter tens of millions. What kind of concept was this? Quick, run. It's over. No one can stop him. Retreat. Many people had already frantically retreated. However, right at this moment, with a boom, the range of the Stardust Resonance instantly expanded outwards. The speed was so fast that it was comparable to displacement. The first to bear the brunt of it was the native army. However, none of the natives ran away. We can't run. If we run, what will happen to the origin god? Although we can't do anything, I will definitely not leave the origin god alone. What is there to fear about death? We might as well have died in the past. Origin god, open soul body as one. If you don't open it now, you will die. Luo Yao was also extremely nervous. This guy still hadn't opened soul body as one and strengthened his body. In any case, he could withstand the damage of the stardust resonance. Right at this moment, Lu Chen finally moved. Chaos spiritual pill. The fierce wind lifted his white hair. Lu Chen slightly closed his eyes and waved one hand. The stardust resonance spiritual force that swept over directly, was unable to move an inch forward. Even the stardust resonance that had already pounced towards the natives and the cultivator army suddenly stopped. What is going on? Magical Beast Sovereign looked at this scene in horror. His stardust resonance had failed. Such a large range attack had been stopped by that guy with a casual wave of his hand. Impossible. I don't believe it. Stardust resonance. Magical Beast Sovereign used his skill again. However, this time, Lu Chen didn't even raise his hand. The stardust resonance only traveled a few meters before it lost its effect. The Magical Beast Sovereign was already dumbstruck. He opened his mouth several times, but couldn't utter a single word. Lu Chen had once asked the Origin God how to break Magical Beast Sovereign's resonance. At that time, the Origin God had said that unless one mastered a state stronger than resonance, it would be impossible to break it. Therefore, Magical Beast Sovereign had enough confidence to rely on this move to kill Lu Chen and tens of millions of enemy troops. Is it very strange? Lu Chen opened his eyes and looked indifferently at the panicked Magical Beast Sovereign. Since I knew that you would appear sooner or later, do you think I would be stupid enough to use my strongest skill to greet your little brothers? The Supreme Magical Beast panicked. His expression was uncertain. Your heaven-cleaving sword, isn't that your strongest technique? Lu Chen smiled but didn't say anything. Magical Beast Sovereign panicked even more. The other party had tacitly agreed. What kind of state skill is this? The corner of Lu Chen's mouth raised slightly as he walked step by step towards Magical Beast Sovereign. The Origin God told me that he was injured by your resonance. Therefore, if I want to kill you, the key is to deal with your resonance. Lu Chen had cultivated in the God of Illusion for half a year, but he almost didn't spend time practicing Formless and Heaven-breaking Sword. Instead, he had been in a state of enlightenment. Spiritual energy, selflessness, and the Big Dipper formation modified by the dual pole pearl in the primitive world of the heavenly star. At the beginning of heaven and earth, all things were born. All things in the world, from nothing to something, from chaos to order. Yin and Yang were born and turned each other. When they were separated, they gave birth to two elements, and when they were combined, they returned to infinity. So, unfortunately, I also figured out my own status skill. Lu Chen slowly walked towards Sovereign Magical Beast. Furthermore, what's even more unfortunate is that my status skill seems to be better than your stardust or resonance of the heavens and earth. Sigh, I don't care anymore. In any case, it's just a little stronger than that resonance of the heavens and earth. Magical Beast Sovereign's eyes were about to split open, full of fear. This guy still had a trick up his sleeve, and it was a state skill that was even stronger than his resonance. Impossible. The prerequisite for comprehending the state of enlightenment is to master spiritual energy. It's impossible for you to master spiritual energy. Lu Chen stood in front of Magical Beast Sovereign. His gaze passed through Magical Beast Sovereign and looked at the Magical Beast army behind him. If you say it's impossible, then it's impossible. Speaking of which, just now you wanted to kill my people. The more Lu Chen said this, the more uncertain Magical Beast Sovereign was. He looked at Lu Chen in horror. What state did you comprehend? Lu Chen smiled slightly. I gave it a name that doesn't sound very nice. After saying that, Lu Chen's eyes suddenly burst with endless killing intent. He raised one hand, go to hell with your Magical Beast army. Then, he shouted two words. Creation. Chapter 891. Dozens of infinite divinity and demon swords suddenly pierced out beside Devil Beast Sovereign. After being strengthened twice by the Heavenly Lake Spirit Vein, as a level 2 divine beast, Lu Chen knew that it was difficult for ordinary weapons to penetrate his skin and flesh. Fortunately, he had the infinite divinity and demon swords. In the area in front of Lu Chen, a large number of infinite divinity and demon swords kept splitting out. These swords appeared at any time, anywhere, without any warning, and were difficult to defend against. Devil Beast Sovereign widened his eyes and used body shuttle several times. However, no matter how he changed his position, a large number of infinite divinity and demon swords would always appear beside him. Lu Chen's world creation had not reached the level of creating a world. After all, he had only cultivated for half a year. What he could do now was to use chaos spiritual energy as raw materials in the target area and with some items in his possession to create a large number of clones. However, this was already a very terrifying effect. Infinite clones of infinite divinity and demon swords. Even someone as strong as Winged Dragon was finally tired of dealing with them. Don't think you can kill me with this move. Winged Dragon was furious, but he had no time to split himself. He could only frantically change his position. Now, he could not stay for a moment. Gradually, the number of clones around him increased, and their attacks became more and more fierce. Some of the attacks almost brushed past Winged Dragon's body. Is it possible that your world creation can be done endlessly? I don't believe it. Your spiritual energy should not be able to hold on. Winged Dragon was still desperately dodging. Lu Chen stood in place. He was still pouring spiritual energy into this area. 500,000 spiritual energy, 800,000 spiritual energy, 1 million spiritual energy, 2 million spiritual energy. With the infusion of spiritual energy, this area finally formed a self-sufficient system. After the clones of infinite divinity and demon swords were dodged, they were broken down again and quickly created new clones. If they were dodged again, they would break down again and create new clones. Yin and Yang were born and turned, and could be separated and combined. Damn it! It's not over. Winged Dragon roared and pulled out a steel claw. He slashed at one of the clones of infinite divinity, and after that sword was hit, it actually split into two. Infinite divinity gave birth to Taiji, and Taiji gave birth to Yin and Yang. In this place, one could become two. And Lu Chen continued to pour spiritual energy. 3 million spiritual energy points, corresponding to a huge amount of spiritual energy, all poured into this area. The number of clones of the limitless Fiend God's sword increased from dozens to hundreds, to thousands, to tens of thousands. These swords could only be dodged and not defended. Otherwise, they would be split into two. At this moment, the power of Genesis was truly displayed. In this small world, as long as one was trapped in it, they would not rest until they died. Dragon Blood Awakening. Yin Long's body erupted with violent spiritual energy. Behind him, there was a huge dragon shadow. Although it blocked a large number of attacks from the Wuji sword, the Wuji sword quickly reformed. It ignored everything and continued to attack. That afterimage became weaker and weaker as it was assimilated and absorbed by the surrounding chaotic spiritual energy. Impossible. Heavenly Dragon Roar. Stardust Resonance. Dragon of the 9 Realms. 9 Dragons Doppelganger. Winged Dragon really had a lot of trump cards. He was constantly using a large number of terrifying skills. However, to the godly demon Limitless Sword clone, there was no difference whether he used a skill or not. If they dared to block, they would split into two. If they dared to dodge, they would quickly rebuild themselves. Some of the skills would be assimilated and absorbed by the surrounding chaotic spiritual energy. Although it was not effective for all skills, as long as it absorbed a little, it would make Yin Long more passive. 10 minutes later, Yin Long had used all of his skills. His body was already covered in wounds. If the Genesis domain was a formation, the winged serpent would have long deciphered it. However, there was no formation core in the Genesis domain. This world seemed to be attached to him. No matter how he dodged, he could not escape from this small world. At this moment, Yinglong felt a sense of déjà vu. For 3,000 years, he was trapped in the heavenly lake spirit vein. Even if his physical body kept getting stronger, he still could not escape. At this moment, he seemed to have returned to the heavenly lake spirit vein. Resisting would only make the attack stronger. He had to keep moving and dodging. At this moment, he suddenly heard a voice. Demonic beast sovereign, give up. This place has already become one. Their attacks will not stop until you die. No, I don't believe it. If I can escape from the heavenly lake spirit vein, I can escape from this damn enchantment. This is not an enchantment. I don't care. Whether it is an enchantment, an array, a domain, or a space created by you. There is nothing that can trap me. Puff, puff, puff. A few godly demon limitless swords pierced demonic beast sovereign's body. However, his recovery ability was extremely shocking. His wounds healed quickly. As expected of a level 2 divine beast's body. Even the godly demon limitless sword clone could not completely injure him. Perhaps, only the heaven-piercing sword could kill him. I don't believe in fate, and I don't believe in you. Yinglong's face was ferocious. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets as he frantically dodged a large number of limitless swords. Lu Chen was slightly stunned. Not believing in fate. Speaking of which, it was somewhat similar to him. 10 minutes later, Yinglong was already somewhat exhausted. However, he was still dodging the attacks with all his might. One after another, the limitless swords slashed his body again and again. Finally, after a large number of attacks, Yinglong's recovery slowed down. His human skin was quickly cut open, revealing an even larger Yinglong's body. At this moment, his body was already riddled with holes and blood flowed non-stop. The more it was like this, the harder it was for him to dodge all the attacks. Gradually, more and more wounds appeared on his body. Suddenly, with a loud boom, Yinglong's 4 front legs fell to the ground and he fell. Countless godly demon limitless sword clones rushed towards Yinglong. Yinglong was already powerless to resist. He did not care about those godly demon limitless sword clones. He only turned his head and looked at Lu Chen with a pair of tired eyes. You said that this space is now a separate entity. Then you can't come in. I can injure you with these swords, but to kill me, that is impossible. Since I can escape from the heavenly lake spirit vein, sooner or later, I will also escape from here. Lu Chen looked indifferently at Yinglong's mangled body. He narrowed his eyes and let out a long sigh. They were indeed enemies. It was either you die or I die. There was no way to change that. However, they were so similar in some aspects. They were equally strong, equally unyielding. With a sigh, Lu Chen raised his head and looked at Yinglong. Since this space was created by me, I can naturally remove it. Oh well, I will send you the last part. After saying that, Lu Chen kept Genesis. At the same time, he activated Soul Body as one. He finally activated Soul Body as one. Luo Yao was so anxious that she was about to cry, and this was under the condition that he had already subdued Yinglong. It was completely an act of drawing legs on a snake. The sword rose, the wind rose, the clouds surged, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Didn't you say that it was a pity that you couldn't withstand my heaven-piercing sword? Consider this my strongest sword strike to make up for your regret. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes and grabbed the godly demon limitless sword with one hand. He roared, heaven-piercing sword. Chapter 892. Lu Chen had said that he would leave the fusion of his soul and body for magical beast sovereign. At this moment, everything finally came to an end with that dazzling white light. Standing behind Magical Beast Sovereign, Lu Chen turned around and looked at Magical Beast Sovereign with an expressionless face. It's over. The unwillingness on Magical Beast Sovereign's face faded at this moment. In any case, Solipsistic did not use any rubbish technique to kill it. In any case, I died under your strongest sword, to be able to evolve into a rank 2 divine beast at the 5th layer of heaven. Who could say that Magical Beast Sovereign did not defy the heavens and change its fate all the way to this day? I have cultivated for thousands of years, but I am not a match for your creation sword and heaven-breaking sword. Lu Chen said indifferently. If not for these 2 moves, I would not have been able to win against you. What if you were at your peak? Magical Beast Sovereign's huge eyes looked at Lu Chen expectantly. At my peak? If I did not have a broken arm and internal injuries, and fought Winged Dragon in my peak state, what would the result be? Lu Chen said indifferently. I would not have been able to win. Winged Dragon seemed to feel gratified when it heard this answer. At least before it died, it gained the recognition of its opponent. However, Magical Beast Sovereign laughed again. Ha ha ha, cough cough, ha 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 ha. Origin God, you are wrong. Actually, even without these 2 moves, you might not have lost. You and I are similar in some areas, but we are not completely the same. I am not willing to lose, but you have a reason to win. After saying this, Magical Beast Sovereign's eyes turned towards the natives. I really regret that I didn't kill you at the bottom of the heavenly lake back then. Devil Beast Sovereign said powerlessly. Even now, he was still unwilling to admit defeat. Who would have thought that a 1-star field cultivator would actually change the fate of the entire 5th heavenly layer? Solipsistic, actually, you are not arrogant at all. Magical Beast Sovereign's chest exploded, and its spiritual core shattered. Magical Beast Sovereign finally closed its eyes. Magical Beast Sovereign died in battle. The entire army of natives was in an uproar at this moment, bursting into cheers. Origin God won, Origin God won. He is our Origin God. The Origin God won. Ergo excitedly pulled Luo Yao's hand. Jade Empress, Origin God won. He won. If it was in the past, Luo Yao would probably have shouted at this dirty little brat to leave. But now, Luo Yao looked at Ergo with a smile. Yes, he won. He has never disappointed anyone. Raising her head, Luo Yao looked at the back of the figure, her eyes filled with surprise. He's the 1 in a million. The shock of the cultivator army was no less than that of the natives. A level 2 divine beast. That fellow, his strength has already surpassed that of a loose immortal. A 1-star great cultivator killed the 4 heavenly kings in 1 move and the supreme magical beast in 2 moves. My God, how can there be such a freak? Senior brother, is it true that cultivators or wild cultivators are stronger? A newcomer asked the senior beside him with a puzzled expression. This. Maybe. I don't know either. It shouldn't be. Xianzhen stood at a faraway slope. The excitement in his heart was indescribable. He did not stop talking. Senior Living Buddha, did you see that? Solipsistic won. That fellow won. My God, how can that fellow's strength be so strong? If I had known earlier, I would have really let Xianlon marry him. It has only been a few years and he actually created his own Genesis technique. Living Buddha, did you see that? That fellow actually did not use soul-body fusion all the way. This fellow is really crazy to the point of no bounds. This is really too exciting. If I had such strength, I would be able to do whatever I want in the entire 5th heaven. Living Buddha really wanted to check the astrology again. But he was helpless. This fellow's mouth was like a machine gun. A senior instantly became a fanboy. Moreover, this fellow kept praising Solipsistic over and over again. It made him feel like he was being slapped in the face. He was the one who would rather have thought highly of Luo Chen than Solipsistic back then. Now, looking at the performance of the two, it was really the difference between heaven and earth. The only consolation was that Solipsistic really won. Can't you stop for a moment? Living Buddha really could not bear it and stopped Xian Zhen, who almost lost his mind. Self-created technique? He still does not have such strength now. He comprehended it from the 5 great spirit veins. What kind of place are the 5 spirit veins? Even the Paragon Devil Beast's power came from a heavenly lake spirit vein. That kid comprehended the heaven-severing sword and Genesis sword from one of the 5 spirit veins. Is defeating the Paragon Devil Beast that strange? But the 5 great spirit veins have always been there. I have not seen anyone comprehending these 2 techniques for so many years. Xian Zhen said, somewhat unconvinced. Hey, you brat, sigh, forget it. I am too lazy to argue with you. After saying that, Living Buddha looked at the battlefield and slightly narrowed his eyes. He muttered to himself, however, it is somewhat strange. Sovereign Magical Beast is already dead. That fellow's dead not, why hasn't it been solved yet? Victory did not bring much joy. Lu Chen looked at the dead Sovereign Magical Beast and thought of the King of Monsters. Under the Jiutian, there were people who were willing to submit to fate, and there were also people who were unwilling to be manipulated by fate. Speaking of which, he was not an immortal cultivator, nor was he an aboriginal. Instead, he was more like the King of Monsters and Sovereign Magical Beast. Sovereign Magical Beast's last sentence confirmed the saying, perhaps the enemy is the one who understands you the most. Raising his head, Lu Chen looked at the 10 million Magical Beast army. The 7 Magical Beast generals were so frightened that they took a few steps back. However, at this time, the killing intent in Lu Chen's eyes had dissipated. He slightly narrowed his eyes and looked at the 7 Magical Beast generals. 7 of you, sign a soul contract. The Magical Beast army will return to the Magical Beast lair and will not invade the 7 nations for 1,000 years. The 7 Magical Beast generals looked at each other. At this time, they were like a group of dragons without a leader. Moreover, there was such a murderous god. If they were to fight again, they would undoubtedly have no chance of winning. Solipsistic did not kill them. In fact, he was giving them a way out. The 7 Magical Beast generals finally walked forward and knelt in front of Lu Chen. They bowed and said, we are willing to sign the soul contract. The 7 Magical Beast generals all knelt in front of Lu Chen. This scene could not help but make people stare. Lu Chen nodded. You all go back first. I will personally go to the Magical Beast lair to take your soul contracts. The 6 Magical Beast generals stood up and faced Lu Chen. They retreated into the army. Only a 9-headed fire dragon was still standing in front of Lu Chen. Lu Chen slightly narrowed his eyes. You are still not leaving? The fire dragon glanced at Sovereign Magical Beast's corpse. After hesitating for a while, it said, Origin Deity, can you allow me to bring back the corpses of Sovereign Magical Beast and the 4 heavenly kings? Sovereign Magical Beast's corpse was definitely a huge fortune. Even if the beast core was broken, it could still replenish a large amount of spiritual energy for the little beast. Origin Deity, if you can allow me to bring back their corpses, my dragon-type Magical Beast clan is willing to exchange treasures. Dragon-type Magical Beast. Lu Chen had almost forgotten that these magical beasts all had a prefix. They were called dragons by the aboriginals. Chapter 893. Seeing that Lu Chen did not agree directly, the 9-headed dragon said hurriedly, Origin God, please don't misunderstand. They died for the Beast clan, and we just want to bury them. Now that our clan has suffered heavy losses, we have no intention to fight for hegemony. If you are still worried, we can leave the beast cores behind and only take the corpses. If they left the beast cores behind, Lu Chen could rest assured. I'll leave the beast cores behind, and you can take the corpses, Lu Chen said calmly. Thank you, Origin God. The nine-headed dragon ordered people to drag away the corpses of the 4 heavenly kings and the beast sovereign, and gave 5 spirit cores to Lu Qin. If Origin God comes to the beast lair, I'll give you the soul contracts and treasures. Lu Qin did not comment. The beast sovereign was dead, and the beast army had lost their commander. This battle was meaningless. The 7 beast generals quickly led the army and left the East Peak Plains. At this time, Little Beast and the others had finally completed the task given to them by Lu Qin. Speaking of which, the ancient gods of war had died more miserably than the 4 heavenly kings and the beast sovereign. The 5 ancient gods of war had been injured by the Black Cheelant's eternal darkness. When they encountered the beast god, Little Hairy Ball, and the sub-originator, they were no match for them. Especially when they fell into the hands of Little Hairy Ball, they would not have a good ending. When the aboriginals saw those insufferably arrogant war gods lying on the ground like pools of mud, all of their eyes widened in anger. Their resurrection was at the cost of the lives of the natives. In their eyes, the natives were not humans, but tools for their resurrection. In this respect, they were no different from the beasts. Origin God has finally avenged us. It's good that they died. From now on, let's see who still doesn't treat the natives as humans. When the immortal cultivator army saw the solipsistic walking toward them, they remembered that this solipsistic did not represent them in the battle against the beast army. On the whole battlefield, the natives were the only ones who were safe. At this time, 90% of the army was in a weak state and had no combat power. He won't kill us, will he? Maybe he will show mercy for the Jade Emperor's sake. During the Great Divine Demon War, the 7 gods survived while the original god perished. But 3,000 years later, the 7 gods perished and only the original god was left. This is truly a reversal of fortune. His son and his 2 battle pets are already terrifying enough. With him, we're done for. At this time, Lu Qin stood in front of the army of cultivators and said loudly, "From today onwards, except for the Eastern Peak Nation, if any of the other 6 nations dares to bully the indigenous people, I will slaughter them." Upon hearing this, the 6 kings' expressions flickered. Yet, when faced with Lone Tyrant's threat, not a single one of them dared to utter a single word. If it were anyone else, no one would believe that a single person could slaughter an entire country. However, when it was said by Solipsistic, no one doubted it. In addition, the 5 heavens will be redistributed. Redrawing the map. The kings of the 6 states looked at each other in dismay. This was a matter that affected their foundations. That. Original God, may I ask how the map will be divided? The king of the Grand Wilderness asked carefully. Wait for my notice, Lu Qin said indifferently, then looked at everyone. What, do you have any objections to my redrawing of the map? Not only did they have objections, they had great objections. However, the 6 kings all saw the same expression in each other's eyes. They could only hold back their objections. Everything will be decided by the original God. We have no objections. Lu Qin nodded in satisfaction. Gufei shook his head and sighed. He's too domineering. Those kings are so scared of your brother that they don't even dare to fart. Your brother is too awesome. No matter how many strong people there are, he's always the strongest one. Lu Yi's face was full of pride. Of course, he's my brother. Yen Ran didn't think so. Gufei, you speak as if this is the first day you know him. He's already being merciful by not killing more kings this time. Dongfang Ji sighed. That guy, the only thing you can hope for is to stand on the same side as him. Luckily, we're friends with him. The war ended, and the kings of the various countries were still waiting for the original god's final notice in the East Peak Nation. The 5th heaven was about to redraw the map, but no one knew the final result. At this moment, Luo Yao received news that the solipsistic didn't return to the East Peak Nation. After the war ended, he disappeared. Luo Yao had a lot to say to him, but he was nowhere to be seen. He didn't even come to see his fellow countrymen. This guy, he hasn't even fully recovered from his injuries. Can't he not make me worry? Me? The soldier who came to report was stunned. Was this the Jade Emperor? The Jade Emperor never said these two words before. In the southern forest of the East Peak Nation, Lu Chen was hurrying along with the little beast. Little beast, these beast cores are for you. Lu Chen threw a small pouch to the little beast deity. Father, don't you want to upgrade your all-creation bloodline? You should keep these beast cores for yourself. The little beast deity said. Lu Chen shook his head. My body is permanently damaged, and the effect of upgrading the all-creation bloodline is not very good. You can use them first. With that, Lu Chen looked back at the little beast deity. I say, little beast, can you not call me father? If you call me that, I won't be able to find a wife. But father, I only have you as my family. If you don't like me, then I won't have any family left. Lu Chen's eyes widened. This guy is using this trick again. I don't dislike you. Okay, I'll call you father then. But it sounds awkward. Call me father. Okay, father. The little beast immediately became happy. Lu Chen shook his head. It seemed that there was no hope for him to call him father. After finding a place to sit down and rest, Lu Chen took out the reward map of the Fifth Heaven mission. The location shown on the map should be in the West Kingdom, the South Pole, and the Penglai country. Rhubarb, we are already nearby. Can you find a spirit vein mine? Lu Chen called out Rhubarb. Woof, woof, woof. As for the specific location, he would leave it to Rhubarb. After following Rhubarb for a few hours, Lu Chen and the others arrived at a barren mountainous area. The mountains here were steep, the vegetation was sparse, and the land was barren and dry. Judging from the terrain, there should be a rocky layer on the surface, which was not conducive to the growth of crops. Perhaps because of this, there were not many people living here. Spirit stone veins were different from spirit veins. Although spirit stones contained a large amount of spirit energy, it was locked in spirit stones and dissipated very slowly. Therefore, spirit veins were not as abundant as spirit veins. This was the area shown on the map. The area was very large, and almost a quarter of the mountainous area was within the marked area. Facing a 200-meter tall mountain, Lu Chen took out the limitless demon sword and summoned the soul god cannon. Symbiosis of gods and demons. Tiger descends the mountain, fire suppression. Break for me. Boom, 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 boom. A large number of spiritual cannons bombarded the mountain. After a few rounds of bombardment, the small mountain was directly flattened, revealing a huge pit. Lu Chen walked to the huge pit and looked down. He was immediately ecstatic. He, this reserve is definitely a rich mine. Chapter 894. The next day, Lu Yi and the rest received a message from a native, asking them to head to the Western Kingdom immediately. Traveling day and night, they arrived at the location designated by Lu Chen after 20 days. At this time, the originally barren mountainous area had changed into a completely different appearance. A large number of natives had already built residences near the mountainous area, and there were also many people digging into the ground, seemingly mining for ores. These natives were often engaged in various kinds of manual labor, so they were more familiar with the steps of mining spirit stones than cultivators. This. No way, such a large area is a spirit stone mine. Cowherd looked at the scene in front of him in shock. In one of the deep pits, some silver ores could be vaguely seen. It was the spirit stone mine that was currently in short supply in the entire Fifth Heaven. Oh my God, such a large area, whoever mines this spirit stone mine would be as rich as a country. If one cooperates with the talisman masters of the Seven Kingdoms to make a cash extraction scroll, it would not be an exaggeration to say that this mine could create a new country. At this time, a native ran over and greeted everyone, "Everyone, please follow me, the Origin God is waiting for you." The few of them looked at each other. The Origin God, other than that fellow, who else could it be? They hurriedly followed that person. At this time, Taishu, Shui'er, Ahui and some natives stood beside Lu Qin, looking at the people who were busy exploring the mine. Lu Qin turned his head and saw Lu Yi and the rest. He smiled and greeted them, "You guys are here. Brother." Lu Yi happily jumped into Lu Qin's arms. It was interesting to say that the two's game cabin was just next door, but the two siblings had not had a good chat for 2 years. "Brat." Cowherd also ran over and punched Lu Chen's shoulder. "Old man." Lu Chen laughed, "You old bones actually ran to the fifth heaven. Who are you looking down on?" "Hee, actually, it was little Yuan and Lady Xuanling who brought me. I just followed them for a ride." Lu Chen smiled and nodded, looking at Xuanling in the crowd. "Nameless brother." Xuanling and Xuanwu walked over together. Xuanling's face was slightly red. "Are you okay? Your arm." There was no time to catch up on the battlefield. Now that he saw so many old friends, Lu Chen was extremely excited. "Let nature take its course. You're all here." Xuanwu said, "Big Brother Mountain Strength and the others have also reached the fourth heavenly layer. They are currently working hard to cultivate. Brother Li is coming to the fifth layer of heaven too. That's great. If there's a chance, I'll wait for them to come up before leaving." "Really? Are you not in a hurry to enter the Tower of Babel this time?" Lu Qin turned his head to look at the busy scene at the foot of the mountain. "There are still some things to take care of here." Not far away, a few travel-worn aborigines were climbing up the slope. When Lu Qin saw them, he hurriedly went up to receive them. "Elder Zhang, how's the survey going?" These people were all very famous survey experts among the aborigines. They had been surveying the entire mining area these days. Although they looked very tired and their bodies were dirty, they could not hide the excitement in their eyes. "Original God, I have participated in the exploration of no less than 20 spirit stone veins. I am sure that this mining area is definitely the largest spirit stone mine in the fifth layer of heaven." Lu Qin smiled slightly. Fortunately, the mission reward was not too bad. Restart the fifth layer of heaven was such an abnormal mission, and the reward was a spirit stone mine. If it was any worse, then he would not accept any more missions in the future. After thinking for a while, Lu Qin said, "Previously, Magical Beast Sovereign destroyed many spirit stone mines. Not only did it consume a large amount of spirit stone mines, but after the war, they were already short on manpower. It will take a long time to repair the mines. Therefore, I estimate that the price of spirit stone mines is at least 5 times the original price." Elder Zhang nodded heavily. "I estimate that it is more than 5 times. The losses caused by the war have almost exhausted the reserves of the 7 countries. Moreover, they don't dare to let the aborigines work for them as they are short on manpower. I estimate that the price of spirit stone mines is at least 7 to 8 times. Another person added, "That depends on whether the Origin God is willing to sell it or not." Thinking of the various countries lining up to buy spirit stone mines, everyone couldn't help but laugh. It could be seen that these people were happy from the bottom of their hearts. Just like the aborigines who were working, there were no supervisors to supervise them, but their enthusiasm was rising wave after wave. Senior uncle looked at Lu Chen excitedly. "Nameless brother, we aborigines really don't know what to say. Such a spirit stone mine is also an unimaginable wealth for you, but you are willing to give the mining rights and management rights to us. We are really, really grateful." Lu Chen smiled slightly. "In fact, the Origin God also helped me a lot. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been able to comprehend the Genesis and sky-breaking sword." At this time, Lu Chen called Lu Yi and a group of Earth's powerhouses. "Yi, I have already thought about it. I will give the mining rights and management rights of this spirit stone mine to the Aborigines and our Earth's United Front Department. As for how to divide it, I will distribute it after the elders give me the specific data. When the time comes, I will go and tell Muhua. The Earth's players widened their eyes. This spirit stone mine was the personal property of the Mad God. In the current situation, just mining and management alone would definitely make a lot of money. There was no doubt that the value of this spirit stone mine could no longer be described with Earth's currency. With this spirit stone mine, the rise of the Aborigines and Earth's players was no longer a fantasy. If the guide plan was added, perhaps Earth would usher in the true era of the strong. Brother, what about you? Lu Yi was still afraid that her brother would suffer losses and asked. I don't know how to mine. I will just take a commission. You want to be a hands-off shopkeeper again. Lu Yi saw through the essence of the matter at once. Senior uncle hurriedly stepped forward. Miss Yi, let your brother be a hands-off shopkeeper. If he doesn't do it, it will be too difficult for us Aborigines to rise. Yes, yes, yes. Origin God, just leave the spirit stone mine to us. We will definitely take care of it properly. Even if you give us 10% of the profits, the elder said. Lu Yi said embarrassedly, Uncle, I am just saying. Anyway, I will support my brother no matter what he says. Lu Chen laughed. There are so many of you. How can 10% be enough? My idea is that you and my hometown will each take 40%. The Aborigines are good at mining. You may have to put in more effort in the early stages of mining, but there are a large number of talisman masters on Earth. In the future, when there are more of them, they will be able to make their own distilling scrolls. You can achieve mutual assistance and develop together. In this way, you will also have a resource. In the future, you can use this as a foundation. In addition, the spiritual energy of the fifth layer has recovered. You can slowly develop. Senior uncle's eyes widened, 40%. Then, nameless brother, won't you only get 20%? Lu Chen put away his smile and looked into the distance. 20% is enough, the things that the Origin God has taught me are enough. Speaking of the previous Origin God, the Aborigines' eyes could not help but tear up. The person who did not hesitate to sacrifice everything to protect the world of Aborigines would forever be the light that guided them to become stronger. Chapter 895. It would take at least a few months or even half a year from exploration to actual mining. Besides, only spirit stones could be mined from the spirit stone mine, and Lu Chen didn't need spirit stones. To make cash extraction scrolls, he had to wait for a large number of Earth Talisman Masters to come to the fifth heaven. Thinking of the final battle, Lu Chen knew that he couldn't wait that long. He didn't have time to wait for the harvest of the 20% he left behind. Most of it would be left for Lu Yi and his friends, so he didn't care about how much he got. At dinner, Lu Chen was a little drunk after drinking with his friends. Speaking of which, after his physique was enhanced, his alcohol tolerance seemed to have increased as well. Those guys couldn't get Lu Chen drunk, a bunch of rookies want to get me drunk. Humph, Lu Chen sat alone on the hillside and looked at the mine below. It was already night time, but the natives' enthusiasm for work didn't decrease at all. There were lights everywhere, and countless figures were still working hard. For them, it was also work, but this time, they were working for themselves for the first time. With hope and without hope, their motivation was naturally completely different. Inadvertently, Lu Chen saw a familiar figure not far away. Although he looked small, he was more motivated than anyone else. Ergo. Lu Chen smiled and flashed in front of Ergo. Ergo was waving a hoe and working hard to dig the rocks underground. When he noticed someone behind him, he didn't even turn his head. Okay, I'll go eat when I dig 2 more meters down. Lu Chen smiled. This guy thought that he was the one who urged him to eat. Ergo. Lu Chen called. Ergo suddenly felt like he was electrocuted. He hurriedly turned around and looked at Lu Chen in shock. Original God? Lu Chen smiled and walked over. I have something to give you. Original God. Ergo was at a loss. Lu Chen took out the wheelbarrow that he had been treasuring for a long time. Looking at the two wheelbarrows, Ergo suddenly burst into tears. The things in the car were almost untouched. There were clothes and necessities for his mother and Arya. Seeing these, he couldn't stop crying. Lu Chen walked in front of Ergo, helped him sit down, and said softly, "You know, your family's wheelbarrow helped me a lot. Without it, I might not have been able to come back in time." Really? Ergo didn't believe it. Lu Chen then told him about the few times he had used the wheelbarrow to successfully cross the border. Lu Chen patted Ergo's shoulder and placed his Origin God token in his hand. Ergo, I also have a little sister. I know you must be blaming yourself. You also want to become stronger. This Origin Divine badge was given to me by a good friend, but he's no longer around. Now, I'm giving it to you. If you want to protect the people you care about, you must be strong enough. Ergo carefully took the Origin Divine badge, looked at Lu Chen, and nodded. Origin God, I will definitely become someone as strong as you. I want to protect the people I care about. I want to protect the natives and never let them be bullied again. Lu Chen smiled. A mortal's body can also defy the heavens. Oh, right, I took a few sets of clothes from your luggage for Little Beast to wear. You're talking about your son? Lu Chen had no choice but to nod. Now, everyone knew that Little Beast was his son. Ergo was very excited. Little Beast had worn his clothes. With such happiness, the sadness from before was diluted, and the little guy suddenly became more talkative. They chatted for a long time. A month later, the mining area had begun to take shape. The elders also gave Lu Chen the complete survey results of the mine. Lu Chen marked out the entire mountainous area, as well as the surrounding areas suitable for living and planting. With the new map, Lu Chen returned to Dongyu Nation. The monarchs of the 7 nations had been waiting for Lu Chen here for more than 2 months, but without Lu Chen's permission, they did not dare to leave. Now that Lu Chen had finally returned, they hurried to the Dongyu Palace. This is the result of the redivision of the 5th heaven. Lu Chen held the map and said to everyone, the Western Kingdom, Penglai Nation, the 4 nations of the Great Wilderness, and Dongyu Nation will each take a part of their territory and establish a new nation here. A nation dominated by the natives. In addition, Baisha Nation, Yumo Nation, and Buzhou Nation will take a part of their territory to supplement the territory of Dongyu Nation. When the monarch of Baisha Nation saw the map, he almost vomited blood. Baisha Nation had taken the most territory. Although Dongyu Nation had also taken a part of their territory, after all, it was close to Lu Chen's mine. But with this compensation, their territory had increased. Origin God, we have no objections to you seeking benefits for the natives. If it weren't for you, the 5th heaven would be gone. But why is Dongyu Nation's territory increasing instead of decreasing, while our 6 nations' territories are decreasing so much? The monarch of Baisha Nation couldn't help but question. That's right, Origin God. Even if you represent the natives, you are still a cultivator. You can't always think of the natives. Suddenly, there was a faint flow of spiritual qi in the Dongyu Palace. In the sealed room, a strong wind began to blow. Everyone looked nervously at Lu Chen. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes and slammed the table, causing it to shatter. Dongyu Nation is the only nation that protects the natives. What's wrong with increasing their territory? Don't you remember how you treated the natives before? I'm already being lenient by leaving your territory. Even now, you still want to protect your own interests. Don't push your luck. Lu Chen's gaze swept across the room. The monarch of Baisha Nation, Yumo Nation, and the rest immediately fell silent, not daring to make a sound. In front of this person, all the monarchs and experts didn't dare to talk back. If anyone has a problem with my distribution, I don't mind increasing the territory of the natives. The last sentence sent a chill down everyone's spine. This was the final warning. In other words, the solipsistic emperor would destroy any country that didn't agree with his decision. The monarch of Baishur nation felt even more guilty. When the solipsistic emperor appeared on the battlefield, the first thing he killed was the Lion King. The solipsistic emperor was right. He was already thankful that he could leave Baishur nation behind. If he asked for anything else, he would be angering the solipsistic emperor. After weighing the pros and cons, the monarch of Baishur nation cupped his fists and said to Lu Qin, "Origin God, please calm your anger. I didn't know how to appreciate your kindness. We will do it now. Origin God, please calm your anger. We will immediately send the order to redraw the borders." The monarchs of the 6 nations left, leaving only Lu Qin and Luo Yao in the palace. "You were a little scary just now," Luo Yao suddenly said. "I've never seen you so fierce." The killing intent in Lu Chen's eyes had already faded. He turned and smiled at Luo Yao. "You didn't tell me that you were the East Mountain Yao Empress. Otherwise, I wouldn't have given you any roasted meat back then." Luo Yao pursed her lips and held back her laughter. Step by step, she walked towards Lu Chen. Her pair of clear eyes looked straight into Lu Chen's eyes. A faint fragrance wafted over, and the air was filled with ambiguity. "Then you won't have the chance to peek at me changing." Lu Chen blinked. Luo Yao still remembered this. Not good. This woman was talking, but why was she getting closer and closer? This posture, this atmosphere, this tone, this gaze. Luo Yao's lips were as tender as strawberries waiting to be plucked. Lu Chen, have roamed the pugilistic world for so many years. Could it be that today, I'm finally going to have a beautiful encounter? Dad! The door of the palace was suddenly pushed open. "Didn't you say you would come out soon and bring me to buy some clothes?" "Eh? What are you doing?" Little beast god tilted his head and looked at Luo Yao and Lu Chen. Chapter 896. Lu Chen looked at the little beast god beside him, who was jumping around in high spirits and had an innocent look on his face. He really wanted to kick it to death. This was a rare opportunity, but it was ruined by this guy. After casually buying him 2 sets of clothes, Lu Chen could only go to an inn. Tomorrow he would go to the magical beast lair. Standing alone in front of the window, Lu Chen gazed at the distant Dongyu Palace in a daze. The originally ambiguous scene had suddenly turned into a farewell ceremony. Although he was moved by Luo Yao, their statuses had determined that Luo Yao would not challenge the Tower of Babel in the short term, and Lu Chen could not stay in the 5th layer of heaven forever. In fact, Luo Yao was also aware of this point. As the ruler of the Dongyu country, she could not abandon the country and leave with Lu Chen when it was time to rebuild it. Sigh. Lu Chen sighed in melancholy. He was not good at getting along with girls, and now with the addition of the beast god, it seemed that his love life was going to be very bumpy. Forget it, let's talk about it after everything is over. Lu Chen shook his head and returned to the table. Unable to sleep at night, Lu Chen took the little beast god and left Dongyu City under the cover of the night. The magical beast lair was located to the west of the Buzhou country, so Lu Chen brought the little beast god there. "Dad, aren't you going to greet Sister Luo Yao? She seems to be very sad." The little beast said. Lu Chen said angrily, "You still know that she is sad. Do you know how many years your dad has been waiting for this opportunity? Yet you forcefully ruined it. Dad, you can't blame me for this. I saw that the others have been out for a long time. I was just worried about your safety." "What's there to worry about? Are you afraid that Luo Yao will eat me?" The little beast lowered its head, looking as if it had made a mistake. Lu Chen shook his head. Since it was already too late, there was no point in scolding the little beast. Forget it, Sai, maybe this is better for her. I will leave sooner or later. Let's go. I still have a lot of things to do. I've been in the 5th layer of heaven for almost 3 years. It's time to go to the 6th layer of heaven. A month later, Lu Qin crossed the Buzhou country and entered the magical beast lair. When Lu Qin stepped into the magical beast lair, a large number of magical beasts rushed out from the surroundings. But when these magical beasts saw Lu Qin, they immediately became docile and stood there, not daring to move. Lu Qin said coldly, "Take me to see the 7 magical beast generals." The 7 magical beast generals came out to greet them from afar. With the 9-headed dragon leading the way, the group headed towards the Devil Beast Mountain. Walking on the small path of Devil Beast Mountain, Lu Qin saw a towering pagoda dozens of miles away. It was as if it stood between the heavens and the earth. He couldn't see the top of the pagoda because it was obscured by the clouds. Even though Magical Beast Mountain was the tallest mountain in the area, it was still far inferior to that tower. Lu Qin narrowed his eyes slightly. He couldn't be more familiar with this tower. Tower of Babel. In front of a huge cave halfway up the mountain, the 7 magical beast generals stopped. The 9-headed dragon said, "Lord Origin God, please come in." With that, the 7 magical beast generals transformed into their human forms and led Lu Qin into the cave. "You can transform into human forms too. Lord Origin God, we are only one step away from becoming divine beasts. We can control our body's appearance, but we can't maintain it for long." The 9-headed dragon transformed into a middle-aged man. When he spoke, his expression was a little unnatural. Perhaps he was still not used to his human form. Light came from somewhere deep in the cave, allowing the vision in the tunnel to be unobstructed. Lu Qin followed the 9-headed dragon into a tall and spacious room. This room reminded Lu Qin of the boss's room in the 4th heaven. It was especially spacious and tall. On the walls around the room, there were many drawings of ferocious beasts. Torch dragon, winged dragon, and even the ancestral dragon, black qilin, white skin, soaring snake, white fun, and so on. Every one of them seemed to be alive. Lu Qin suddenly stopped in front of the picture of winged dragon. He touched the wall with his hand and realized that there was spiritual energy flowing slowly in the murals. These murals? Lu Qin looked at the 9-headed dragon in astonishment. Lord Origin God, they are all painted with their corpses. This is the tradition of our magical beast clan. The dead continue to exist in this way. Lu Qin took a deep breath. This tradition was a little strange. Where are your soul contracts? Lord Origin God, please come this way. The 9-headed dragon led Lu Qin to a huge stone table in the room and took out 7 dominoes. On each of the dominoes, there was a carving of one of the 7 magical beast generals. 9-headed dragon, 9-eared macaque, 9-winged shark, 9-winged emperor river. Not a single one was missing. This is the soul pact of the 7 beasts. Lord Original God, there are some magical beasts that are not under our jurisdiction. There are also some that are scattered all over the place. If they continue to multiply like this, then we will not be able to completely stop the magical beasts from harming people. What we can guarantee is that within 1,000 years, our magical beast army will not organize any operations to attack the 7 nations. Lu Qin frowned slightly. After thinking for a moment, the magical beasts were also a part of the 5th heaven. The real threat to the 5th heaven was the magical beast army led by the magical beast sovereign. It was reasonable for the other magical beasts to exist in the 5th heaven. Lu Qin said, "Just look after your people. Also, in the future, the 5th heaven will not only be the 7 nations, it should be the 8 nations." The 7 magical beasts immediately picked up their dominoes and made a new oath. Not long after, the contents of the soul contracts were modified. The 7 magical beasts handed their dominoes to Lu Qin. Lord Origin God, this is our sole contract dominoes. Please sign the contract as soon as possible and destroy the dominoes. Otherwise, if it falls into the hands of others, we, Lu Chen naturally understood. Don't worry. At this moment, four Kuei cows carried a huge box into the room. They placed the box in front of Lu Chen and retreated. Lord Origin God, this is a gift to thank you for letting us bring back the corpses of the sovereign and the four heavenly kings. Please take a look. Lu Chen stood up and walked in front of the box. Opening the box, there was a cluster of black crystals inside. The crystal was as long as a person. The cut surface was shining brightly. The whole thing was diamond-shaped, and upon closer inspection, it was made up of many small diamond-shaped crystals. Every small crystal seemed to have liquid flowing in it, making the whole crystal seem to be alive. Lu Chen was a little curious. He placed his hand on the crystal and poured some spirit energy into it. Suddenly, this compact crystal cluster opened. It instantly broke down into small crystals. The distance between them was pulled apart, but it did not completely lose control. When Lu Chen retracted his spirit energy, the small crystals returned to their original state and were tightly embedded together. What is this? Lu Chen could not help but ask in surprise. He had never seen such a strange crystal before. This is a drop of the dragon god's blood. Dragon god's blood? Lu Chen looked at the nine-headed dragon in shock. That's right. The dragon god's blood originates from the strongest dragon god. The fifth heaven magical beasts are all called dragon species because we more or less have the dragon god's blood in our bodies. Every time we die, the dragon god's blood in our bodies will burn a little, stimulating more potential. Although we can recover the concentration of dragon god's blood afterwards, burning the dragon god's blood will cause quite a bit of damage to our bodies. So when we reach our level, we can directly stimulate the potential of the dragon god's blood. The four heavenly kings and Jizun can always maintain their strongest state. And if we don't have the dragon god's blood, fusing with this drop of dragon god's blood, the concentration of dragon god's blood in our bodies can even surpass the strength of Jizun's blood. Lu Chen's eyes widened. The fifth heaven also has a bloodline. The key is, it's such a strong bloodline right from the start. The dragon god's bloodline. If it's so strong, why didn't the magical beast Jizun fuse with it? Lu Chen suddenly asked. It can't fuse with it. The nine-headed dragon said, in fact, as long as it's a dragon god's blood, it can't fuse with a new dragon god's blood. Our bloodline also comes from the dragon god, but it's too mixed. It's hard to maintain its original purity. If it fuses with this drop of pure dragon god's blood, it will clash with each other and explode. Why did you give such an important thing to me? Lu Chen didn't believe it. It was understandable if they casually gave him other treasures, but taking out the dragon god's blood was really a little illogical. To be honest, Origin God, this is not our wish. The dragon god once left behind a last wish, to leave the dragon god's blood to the strongest person in the fifth heaven. No matter if it's a friend or a foe, it can't be treated differently. And you, are worthy of the 3 words strongest person. Chapter 897. After obtaining the 7 beasts' soul contracts and the dragon blood crystal from the magic beast nest, Lu Chen temporarily left the nest. He still didn't quite believe the magic beast's words. Even if what they said was true, Lu Chen wouldn't merge the dragon blood in front of them. In the mountains of Buzhou country, a winding river converged into a huge lake. There was a house next to the lake. It should have been a hunter's home in the past, but the house was in a mess now. It looked like they had fled when the magic beasts invaded. Lu Chen was temporarily staying here. A few days ago, Shuai sent a message saying that the 7 countries had readjusted their border deployment. Now, the territory that Lu Chen had set aside for the aboriginals was independent. Xuanling, the Saintess and the others led the aboriginals to build a simple border fortress. In addition, the news of the spirit vein mine had also spread. Now that the 7 countries were lacking in spirit stones, no one dared to have any ideas about this huge spirit stone mine. They only sent out envoys to discuss matters of purchase. It looked like the spirit vein mine hadn't started operating yet, so there was no need to worry about not being able to sell it. Lu Chen put away his fishing rod and looked at the fish basket. It was another full day of harvest. Looking at the lake in front of him, Lu Chen looked pensive. "Little guy, I won't be staying in the 5th layer of heaven for long. If you don't appear soon, we won't even have a chance to say goodbye." Saying this, Lu Chen shook his head and carried the bamboo basket home. Back at the residence, Lu Yi and Xiao Min cleaned up the house. Although the small mud house was clean, it was still very cozy. Lu Yi cooked a few dishes. There were bowls and chopsticks on the table. Only Lu Chen's main dish was left. As a 9-star chef, Lu Chen quickly cooked the black-scaled fish and brought the dishes to the table. Rhubarb, Little Furball and Little Critter went out to play. Lu Chen was too lazy to call them. After all, they wouldn't come back even if he called them. At this moment, the fence in front of the courtyard was pushed open, and a man walked into the courtyard with a smile. "I say, Lu Chen, your life is getting more and more comfortable." So many dishes. Lu Chen looked up curiously, but when he saw this person, Lu Chen was stunned. Mountain people. The person was wearing a bamboo hat, but Lu Chen recognized him at a glance. Although they hadn't seen each other for a long time, Lu Chen felt that the mountain man had always been by his side. On the eve of the decisive battle between the 4th layer of heaven and the moon nether glow, it was the people in the mountains who asked Lu Chen to go to the Stardust Waterfall to cultivate and comprehend the spirit chi subtlety. The mountain man took off his bamboo hat, put it on the table, and sat down without hesitation. Come, come, come. I'll try your cooking and see if it's good enough for the wine I brought." Lu Chen smiled, put a plate of fish on the table, and sat down as well. The mountain man put a piece of fish into his mouth, shook his head, and tasted it. Suddenly, his eyes widened. The fish is fine but not mushy. The soup is just right. It's really good. Where's the wine?" Lu Chen smiled. "You're really thinking about my wine. Let me tell you, this wine is called Drunken Immortal. 1 cup costs 100 spiritual energy. 1 pot costs 1 million spiritual stones." The mountain man said smugly. 1 cup costs 100 spiritual energy. Lu Chen frowned slightly, then said, "Wait for me." He ran out of the room and took out 2 big bowls, placing them in front of the mountain man and himself. "A rough person like me doesn't drink from cups. Use these. Fill them up." Looking at the 2 big bowls, which were like small basins, the mountain man's hand that was holding the wine pot trembled. "You're using these to drink such good wine? My pot isn't even enough to fill your basin. Even will needs to be cleaned slowly. You're going to be bald in one go." Lu Chen didn't say anything. He just held the bowl and waited. That jug should have at least 2,000 spiritual energy. "Hey, you. I'm here to see you. I have to pay for my own travel expenses, and I have to pay a few million spiritual stones." The mountain man glared at Lu Chen, took out another pot, and filled both their bowls. "I'm telling you, drink slowly. It's really expensive." The mountain man was losing money the moment they met. "Why didn't you fuse with your dragon blood?" The mountain man asked casually. "Are you afraid they're lying to you?" Lu Chen picked up some food. "This thing looks quite strange. You said I killed their boss, but they still gave me dragon blood. I felt a little guilty accepting it. Kid, there's a reason why you're still alive. It's better to be safe than sorry. However, they didn't lie to you. That is indeed the blood of the dragon god. It's just that this drop of dragon blood exists in the form of a crystal and is extremely concentrated. With your current body, I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it. Lu Chen frowned slightly. Then when will I be able to fuse with it? The strength of a demonic beast's body surpasses spiritual energy by at least 7 to 8 times. After you've been strengthened by the origin crystal, you can reach 15 times. Logically speaking, as long as you reach Theo the Great's level, you can attempt to fuse with it. However, your body is damaged. Even with the addition of the All Things bloodline, you'll need to reach at least the Human King realm. Oh, I forgot you're an unorthodox cultivator. You haven't even recognized all the realms. After Theo the Great is the Human King realm. Human King realm cultivators can't rely on attributes to reach that level. They must have at least a third-level intent realm to qualify as a king among men. Lu Chen unconsciously put down his chopsticks. Intent realm, spiritual essence, anatta, and genesis are all already there. However, they're too low. For a supreme demonic beast, they may be unbreakable moves. However, you should also understand that if you meet a true powerhouse, breaking your genesis is as simple as breaking the resonance of stars. After saying this, the mountain man took out 2 tokens, placed them on the table, and pushed them in front of Lu Chen. Lu Chen picked up the tokens and looked up. What is it? 6th Heaven's entrance tokens for the 2 great academies. When the time comes, you can choose one. I can give you the token, but I can't tell you the specific differences. Lu Chen nodded. After all, it was something from the 6th heaven. Even the mountain man couldn't reveal it. Since the mountain man gave it to him, it must be useful. Lu Chen carefully put away the 2 tokens and didn't ask more about the 6th heaven. However, the mountain man reminded him. Kid, at the 6th heaven, you need to restrain yourself a little. You don't have much time. The opportunities and challenges in the 6th heaven are incomparable to those in the 5th heaven. Lu Chen secretly noted it down. After 30 days, Lu Chen forced the mountain man to take out 2 pots of drunken immortals. Now, he had 4,000 spiritual energy points. Well, I should go. If I stay any longer, I'm afraid I'll go bankrupt. The mountain man stood up shakily. Sure enough, even immortals would get drunk after drinking this wine. Before leaving, the mountain man turned back and said, "Oh, you're still waiting for the little golden carp. It has already gone to the 6th heaven. You have a good fate with it. Make good use of it. Hey, when will you come and drink with me again?" "I'll come again after I finish a year's work." In the blink of an eye, the mountain man had disappeared. Only Lu Chen was left at the table. He knew that the mountain man came this time not only to give him the tokens, but also to urge him. Going to the 6th heaven earlier seemed to be the fastest way to become stronger. Chapter 898. Earth. The video of Mad God's final battle had been sent back, and it had quickly become a hot topic on the internet. The number of views on various major websites had been at the top of the list for several months. This is a real battle. Does this mean that Mad God is already so strong in reality? Mad God is too awesome. He killed the Warcraft 4 Heavenly Kings and Warcraft King in seconds. He alone deterred millions of Warcraft army. I can only say that we are lucky to have Mad God. Now, I am more and more confident about exploring Jyotian. People were more and more admiring of Solipsistic, regardless of nationality or race. At the same time, after witnessing Solipsistic's incredible combat power, almost everyone's desire to improve their strength became stronger and stronger. At this time, the Earth United Front Alliance was holding an emergency meeting. The level 5 powerhouses had already reported the matter of the Origin God Mine. Now, a gold mine was right in front of the people of Earth. This was extremely important for Earth. The guide plan has now shown its effect. Now, we need to send more people to the level 5 to start mining the Origin God mine. Especially the Talisman Masters. We have already contacted Dongyue country. As long as we have enough Talisman Masters to go to the level 5, they will send people to guide us on how to make the extraction scroll. That's great. We finally have resources that belong to us. With the mine, our development will be dozens of times faster than now. By the way, Mr. Lu's personal safety must be ensured. The representative of the United States emphasized. His proposal was quickly approved by the representatives of other countries. Yes, Mr. Lu is the guide of the entire Earth. Without him, we would not have reached this point. His personal safety must be prioritized over all other standards. The representative of Wuxia's military, the Great Wall of Iron and Blood, frowned. They had never neglected Lu Chen's safety. The residential area where Lu Chen lived was now almost a military base. What kind of concept was that? Hundreds of thousands of the best soldiers were protecting his safety at all times. However, the representatives of the various countries brought it up again. It was not a cliché. Almost no one on Earth could threaten Lu Chen's safety, but Zhoutian could. The level 5 could allow interstellar travel. Currently, players were unable to check the coordinates of their own world. Unless they personally brought people in, they did not have to worry about others knowing the coordinates of Earth. However, everyone knew that Lu Chen would definitely go to the 6th heaven. One heavenly domain, one heavenly layer. Who knew what the 6th heavenly layer was like? What would happen if he destroyed Lu Chen's gaming cabin? This should be what they were worried about. We are already strengthening our defenses. We will protect him at all costs. At the same time, we also hope that other countries can contribute advanced weapon systems to help us protect Mad God. We will not shirk our duty. After a month of leisure in Buzhou, the natives and the regional countries were developing steadily. The first transaction of the mine had been completed. Naturally, it was sold to the Eastern Peak Nation. Considering the relationship between the Jade Emperor and Lu Chen, as well as the Eastern Peak Nation's protection, the price was set according to the original price. But only the Eastern Peak Nation had this kind of treatment. The prices of the other 6 nations had been raised to 8 times the previous price. According to this situation, the Eastern Peak Nation would develop faster than the other 6 nations in the future. This was what Lu Chen wanted to see. When the Eastern Peak Nation became stronger, it could help the natives pass the initial stage. It's almost time to go. Lu Chen put away his fishing rod. Little Green, Xiao Min, pack up and get ready to go. Little Beast God had grown a lot after swallowing the 5 beast cores. Now, he looked like a teenager of 13 or 14 years old. He liked to wear white clothes. No one knew who he learned it from. Anyway, it did not look like Lu Chen's style at all. He helped Lu Yi and Xiao Min pack up. Little Furball, Rhubarb, and Little Originator did not know how to help at all. They were running around the yard. "Boss, where are we going?" Lu Yi asked while packing up the herbs. Tower of Babel. As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, the 3 little guys immediately rushed to Lu Chen's side like a swarm of bees, eager to give it a try. Lu Chen smiled. "I know you're bored. It's time to go to the 6th heaven." Half a month later, Lu Chen stopped in front of a huge tower that towered into the clouds. There seemed to be a faint sound coming from the Tower of Babel. Gradually, the faint sound became a loud rumble. It seemed that the guy inside also felt Lu Chen's arrival and began to be impatient. The corner of Lu Chen's mouth slightly raised. "Are you also waiting anxiously?" "Don't worry, I'm coming." After that, Lu Chen stepped into the Tower of Babel. This was already the 5th floor of the Tower of Babel that Lu Chen had entered. The space here was far more spacious than the previous 4 floors. It was more like a starry sky than a floor of the tower. The surroundings were dark. The surrounding starlight allowed Lu Chen to see the surroundings, but he couldn't see the walls or the ground. In front, there was an area that was especially dark. It was as if light couldn't travel here. It was like a black hole in the universe. Suddenly, the black hole opened its eyes. A pair of huge green eyes turned towards Lu Chen's direction. Then, it stood up. It turned out that it wasn't a black hole, but its body. Because it was nestled there before, it looked like a black hole. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. Was this heaven domain boss a black dragon? However, on the other side, there was another area hidden in the starry sky that was changing. Heaven's Eye. Lu Chen directly opened his Heaven's Eye. With this look, Lu Chen realized that there were a total of 4 giant beasts here. After seeing the 4 giant beasts clearly, Lu Chen's eyes were full of shock. Forget about the other 3, but one of them was the supreme beast that Lu Chen killed before, Winged Dragon. This is the winged dragon that I killed. Why is it here? Lu Chen's mind was in a mess. At this moment, a figure slowly walked out from behind the black dragon. Lu Chen could see that his body was emitting a terrifying spiritual energy. He didn't seem to be a real human, but just an illusion. Solipsistic, you're finally here. That's right, it's the winged dragon that you killed, but it's now my puppet. That person smiled. And these 3, Green Ancestral Dragon, Torch Dragon Demon Monarch, Ancient Kuei Cow King. You should have seen them in the murals of the Beast Clan. They were all supreme beasts of the past. That person's tone was calm and his expression was relaxed. The traditions of the Beast Clan were set by me. As for the purpose, you should already know by now. That person walked towards Lu Chen with a smile on his face. You think everything is over? Ha ha ha, you're so naive that it's a little cute. You think the prophecies of the oracle are all groundless? The 5th heaven's tribulation has been resolved, but your not hasn't. So, the game has just begun. Chapter 899. You can change the fate of the 5th celestial layer, but you can't change your own fate. That person walked over with the 4 beasts following closely behind him. Lu Chen frowned, you're a puppet master. Heavenly puppet master. That person corrected. Lu Chen nodded. Alright, the evolution of professions was getting more and more complicated. He could barely remember the various branches of professions. Do I have to kill you before I can go over? That person smiled, others don't need to kill me. Of course, they can't kill me either. But you. I think you should know that your treatment is different from others. It seemed like it was going to be another battle to the death. Lu Chen shook his head and sighed. He helplessly pulled out his limitless sword, alright, then let's hurry up. The main academy in the 6th celestial layer has already started to recruit disciples. I have to hurry over. That person laughed, solipsistic, you're about to die. Why are you still so arrogant? I've seen your battle. Now, your dual heaven's might is useless. My puppet technique allows the puppet to display even more terrifying strength than when it was alive. Against the 4 supreme magical beasts, what chance do you have of winning? Lu Chen coldly looked at that person, is it because the puppet master doesn't have anyone to talk to? Is that why you talk so much nonsense? You brat, you still dare to be arrogant? I'll make you wish you were dead. Soul and body as one. Heaven, earth, black, yellow, for supremes, soul integration. Hell awakening. With a boom, the 4 supreme beasts erupted with terrifying spiritual energy and entered their divine beast state. Did you see that? Their strength is not inferior to their peak strength when they were alive. Without dual heaven's might, you're dead for sure. The puppet master roared, his eyes filled with excitement, I'll be free after killing you. Go to hell, solipsistic. Little Beast God stood behind Lu Chen and vigilantly looked at the Winged Dragon and Torch Dragon, Dad, how do we fight? You deal with 2, and I, little furball, rhubarb, and I will deal with 1. You guys deal with 4, Lu Chen indifferently said. Ah. Dad, isn't this inappropriate? What's wrong with it? Did I give you the beast core for nothing? I'm not afraid. We're dealing with 4 of them. What about you? Are you the dad, or am I the dad? Why do you care? Do you think it was easy for me to raise all of you? When it comes to fighting, you're not going to fight. Are you waiting for me to do it? But Dad, Lu Chen waved his hand, and Furry, Rhubarb, and Originator all jumped out. The little furball immediately entered battle mode, and its body enlarged. Staring at the kuei in front of it, Originator also transformed into a giant kuei. Rhubarb shouted at the 4 supreme magical beasts, as well as the puppet master. He quickly hid behind the small furball, not giving them any chance to launch a sneak attack. Rhubarb, it's rare to have a teammate like you. Lu Chen shook his head. This guy held the 9 revolving black gold mirror in his mouth every day, as if he was comprehending something, but he hadn't made any progress. The only change was that the little furball and the others were getting stronger and stronger, and he was getting bolder and bolder. Now that his dad had spoken, the beast god didn't refuse anymore. His eyes lit up, and his body was wrapped in colorful flames. Behind him, 18 divine beasts flashed past. Then, the beast god shouted in a low voice, extreme mysterious heavenly fire armor. Spring of life. A red flame shield enveloped the 3 divine beasts at the same time. This should be a kind of spell talisman, which increased the team's defense and healing. Although the sub-originator had turned into a kuei cow, its skin was crystal clear. Inside, it was not a fleshly body, but a liquid that was constantly flowing. It was highly condensed spiritual energy that flowed rapidly, making it look like blood. Originator hadn't fought alongside Lu Chen for a long time. In fact, Originator had been very strong before. It was immune to physical and spiritual attacks, and could even absorb spiritual attacks. Now that Originator had intelligence in a physical body, its strength had gone further. It was formed by the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Now, it could control its own body very skillfully, which meant it could control the flow of spiritual energy. Lu Chen frowned slightly. Originator's affinity with spiritual energy is stronger than mine. In other words, after having a physical body, Originator's future potential is unpredictable. Father, we can only deal with 3 at most. The last one is for you. Let's go. After saying that, the 3 divine beasts rushed out. The little furball used bloodline bond to heal itself, Originator, and the beast god. Then, it turned into a white light and rushed toward ancestral Gragon. The beast god's figure was like lightning. His figure couldn't be seen clearly, but wherever he passed, a long black flame tongue was left on the ground. That should be the black flame of the Black Flame Dragon Emperor. Originator's huge body directly rushed toward the Supreme Kuei. Kuei's attack leaned toward the physical type, so Originator was able to suppress it. These 3 beasts were not useless in their usual fights. Now, their cooperation was extremely tacit. Their skills were coordinated with each other, and their positioning was exquisite. They could both attack and defend. However, there were only 3 of them. There was still one winged dragon left, which no one cared about for the time being. Lu Chen looked at Rhubarb, and Rhubarb also looked back at Lu Chen. Rhubarb, you. Before Lu Chen could finish his words, Rhubarb ran away. Lu Chen shook his head. This guy was quite self-aware. If the beast god wanted to win, it might not be enough, but those 3 beasts could at least delay for a while. And this period of time was crucial for Lu Chen. God and demon symbiosis. God of war possession. Demon transformation. 3 lives reincarnation. Lu Chen activated his various buffs one after another. Place of death. Dragon blood boiling. Soul and body fusion. Lu Chen directly activated soul and body fusion. His attributes directly soared to millions, his 3 dimensions reached 2.5 million, and his spiritual force reached 4.5 million. 9 steps in the void. Lu Chen shouted. He had already dashed toward the winged dragon. The puppet master snorted. At least you have some self-awareness. You know that you can't bypass the puppets and kill me directly. You want to stall my 3 celestial beasts with your 3 battle pets so that you can quickly kill the winged dragon and then kill me? Ha, 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 you are completely wrong. Do you think the winged dragon I have is still the piece of trash you killed? Most people would try their best to kill the puppet master in person when fighting against him. The better the puppet master was in actual combat, the better the puppet master could protect his own body. Expert puppeteers were existences that could be seen but not touched. They could use puppets to restrain the other party completely. The solipsistic dragon didn't intend to attack his own body at all. He went straight for the puppets, probably because he knew that he couldn't get close to Lu Chen. Unfortunately, your heaven-piercing sword is too slow. Genesis needs to seize the best opportunity to use the move in advance. I have seen those 2 moves. I won't give you the chance to use them. The winged dragon had entered the state of a second-rank divine beast. It was moving quickly before Lu Chen could get close. Dragon of 9 worlds. While moving quickly, the winged dragon's puppet suddenly disappeared into the void. Not even the heaven's eye could see it. 9 dragons clone. All of a sudden, 9 figures dashed out from the space behind Lu Chen and slapped at Lu Chen at the same time. The clones in the void made it difficult for Lu Chen to tell which one was the real winged dragon. At the same time, the 9 winged dragons were charging at Lu Chen at the same time. Lu Chen was enraged. The winged dragons were too fast. If it weren't for the fact that Genesis had trapped the winged dragon, he wouldn't have won that easily. Go to hell, solipsistic dragon. Dark golden dragon claw. The 9 winged dragons were very close. Chapter 900. The strength of winged dragon's body was indeed much stronger than Lu Chen's. Its speed had already exceeded the limits of a human's reaction. Lu Chen originally thought that the puppet master might not be able to use a puppet better than winged dragon when he was alive. However, he had been careless this time. The puppet master's control skills were simply incomprehensible. Controlling 4 supreme stage puppets at the same time and still being able to unleash their power to such a terrifying extent. Using the 9-world roaming dragon at the same time and using the 9-world roaming dragon at the same time, Lu Chen even suspected that this guy was not just a puppet master. Godly devil astral body. Lu Chen shouted in a low voice. His attributes instantly increased by several times, and at the same time, he was in a state where he could not be targeted. The godly devil astral body was extremely powerful, but it only lasted for 8 seconds. 8 seconds, he had to kill the puppet master. In an instant, Lu Chen broke away from the 9 dragons' attack and instantly teleported in front of the puppet master. You're already dead. Lu Chen snorted coldly and stabbed at the puppet master with limitless sword in his hand. Sky-piercing sword. Under the godly devil astral body, the speed of the skill was greatly increased, but logically speaking, it could not be used instantly. The puppet master narrowed his eyes slightly. Formless. This person's eyesight was not bad. He could actually see that Lu Chen had merged formless into the sky-piercing sword. Unfortunately, solipsistic, you underestimate me too much. Even using the godly devil astral body, it seems like you're not far from death. After saying that, the puppet master's hands quickly flipped and formed seals. Seeing the puppet master's actions, Lu Chen's heart tightened. Not good. This guy was also a talisman array master. Usually, many experts chose to cultivate several professions to complement each other's weaknesses, using other professions to make up for the shortcomings of the original profession. However, the combination of a puppet master and a talisman array master was extremely rare. A puppet master needed to control puppets, which was already multitasking. Professions were most afraid of being close to their main body. A talisman array master needed a lot of brain power to set up various arrays and use talismans. At the same time, a talisman array master was afraid of being close combat professions. It seemed that these two professions could not complement each other's weaknesses. But there was another possibility. If he had enough confidence in his puppet control technique, and at the same time could ensure that he could multitask, then the combination of these two professions would have an extremely terrifying effect. With the puppet's distraction, the talisman master would have enough time to set up the array. Using the formation to prevent others from getting close to him, he made up for the weaknesses of both the puppet master and the talisman master. In addition, on the offensive side, the talisman seal and the puppet could completely achieve a perfect suppression effect. It could be said to be one of the most perfect combinations. Of course, it was extremely difficult to cultivate both at the same time. Other than having to have a clear mind, one's reaction, timing, control, positioning, and other combat skills had to be mastered to the extreme. Unfortunately, the nameless puppet heavenly master in front of him seemed to have done it. Spirit-body exchange. Fiend God trap formation, activate. The hand seals were quickly completed. The puppet master looked at Lu Chen with a mocking gaze. "You're finished, solipsistic." With a loud bang, Lu Chen's heaven-piercing sword seemed to have pierced something, causing a violent explosion. Lu Chen hurried to dodge. At the same time, the puppet master's true body had disappeared. Impossible. Lu Chen's eyes widened. His fiend god astral constitution could restrain the astral constitutions of other classes. How could that guy disappear? Lu Chen activated the heaven's eye and even searched with his spiritual energy. He didn't find the puppet master, but he did find the spiritual energy around him strange. He couldn't even see the little beast god and the others. He was trapped in the fiend god trap formation. Suddenly, the puppet master's voice came from around him. "Don't worry, I'll let you out soon. Wait until I kill your battle pets first." "Oh, don't worry about them. I'll make them into puppets so that they can live forever as puppets." "Solipsistic, I heard that you've never been defeated." "TSK, TSK, TSK. You didn't expect to die in my hands, did you? Do you think you're invincible in the level 5 heaven after killing Winged Dragon? Don't forget that I'm the guardian of the level 5 heaven. I'm the ceiling of the level 5 heaven. Ha 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 ha. Heaven-piercing sword. Creation. So what? So what if you have a fiend god astral constitution? You'll still die in my hands. Ha 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 ha. The 8 seconds of the fiend god astral constitution were soon over. The moment the fiend god astral constitution ended, the formation was suddenly deactivated. As soon as the formation was deactivated, Lu Chen saw that the little beast god and the others were besieged by the 4 celestial beings. "Father, be careful of the puppet master. His puppets are very strong." The little beast god was still trying to warn Lu Chen. It seemed that he had also sensed the strength of the former celestial beings and knew that they couldn't be underestimated. Right then, the puppet master smiled and moved his fingers gracefully. Then, a few more puppets appeared in front of him. These are clones of the 4 celestial beings. They're not as powerful as the puppets made of their corpses, but they should be able to make your battle pets give up sooner. 4 more puppets joined the battle, making the beast god and the others even more perilous. The puppet master stood in front of Lu Chen without any scruples. "Do you have more fiend god astral constitution? I've seen all your opportunities in the level 5 heavens. You've made me wait for 3 years. Do you think I'll give you any chance after 3 years of preparation?" Lu Chen glared at the puppet master coldly. That guy had exceeded his expectations. The puppet master knew what he was capable of. Heaven-piercing sword, creation, and fiend god astral constitution. No wonder the people in the mountain had urged him to challenge the tower. They probably didn't want him to go to the level 6 heavens to improve his strength. The longer the puppet master prepared, the less likely he would be to win. That was the key. However, Su Ping was already in a critical situation. Oh, right. You still have inner demon and lotus heart. Why? Are you going to turn the tables with those two moves? The puppet master didn't seem to be scared at all. Instead, he was getting more and more excited. Come on, use them. I can't wait. The game will only be interesting when you're trying your best. Otherwise, I won't have any fun. Oh, I see. It must be because you still have fantasies about your battle pet, right? It seems that I have to force you into a corner. All of a sudden, there was a horrifying explosion in the distance. Then, spiritual energy swept across the sky. If they weren't in the sky tower, the entire lair would have been flattened by that horrifying explosion. Ha, ha, ha. Isn't that awesome? I simulated the explosion of the Emperor Cultivation Elixir. The puppet master was mad. It's not as powerful as the explosion of the real Emperor Cultivation Elixir, but it shouldn't be hard to kill those little guys. The spiritual energy dispersed. Lu Chen looked at the little beast god in horror. At the moment, the little beast god and the furball were both covered by a shield, but the originator was nowhere to be seen. Little originator. Lu Chen's eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and his mind went blank. Chapter 901. Surrounded by the turbulence of spiritual energy, Lu Chen could no longer tell which cluster was the suboriginator's body. The suboriginator had shielded the little beast god and the furball from the explosion, but they were still heavily wounded. Still, they had managed to survive. The furball tried to stand up and look around. Roar, it roared. The furball was looking for its friends, but there were only the four celestials and the wounded beast god. The suboriginator was nowhere to be seen. Roar. The little furball raised its head and roared. Its roar was filled with boundless grief. Lu Chen felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Tears welled up in his eyes. The suboriginator had been with Lu Chen for a long time. It had been with Lu Chen since the second day. The suboriginator was the only puppet among all the battle pets, and it should have been emotionless and unconscious. However, Lu Chen could tell that the suboriginator had become different after spending time with him, the furball, and rhubarb. Lu Chen didn't take the suboriginator with him during the 4th and 5th days. The suboriginator had its own mission, which was to protect the 3rd day. Lu Chen couldn't remember if it had been 5 or 6 years. The suboriginator was the only one guarding the 3rd day. The suboriginator missed its boss and the furball, but the 3rd day hadn't been stabilized yet. The suboriginator was still there in Lu Chen's name. Only recently did the suboriginator move from the 3rd day to the 5th day to look for them. When they first met, the suboriginator, the furball, and rhubarb were like friends who had been separated for a long time. They had killed the 5 ancient gods together. Even after such a long time, they were still working well together. At the last moment of its life, the suboriginator, which was known as a puppet, saved the furball and the beast god with its hard-earned life. Maybe, the suboriginator thought that they could better protect their boss in the future, suboriginator. Lu Chen's eyes were filled with tears. I'm sorry. Boss didn't protect you. The puppet master burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. Solipsistic, aren't you arrogant? Your battle pet was killed by me, but you couldn't do anything about it. How pitiful. Come on, inner demon, sacred lotus sword heart, come and kill me. Lu Chen's entire body trembled. His eyes emitted billowing green mist. He gritted his teeth and said word by word, "I will tear you to pieces." The puppet master was not afraid at all, and he loudly laughed as he said, "Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will be victorious in every battle. I know you like the back of my hand, how can you kill me?" Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. That's right, this person was not only extremely strong, but a person who used a substitute puppet to self-destruct with an emperor cultivation. This strength was something Lu Chen had never heard of before. Most importantly, he knew his own methods too well. He knew all of his ultimate moves like the back of his hand. He had even avoided the single sword cleaving the heavens that he had used in his formless state. This meant that his preparations couldn't be any more adequate. Whether it was the heart demon or the sacred lotus sword heart, neither of them could kill this guy. Suddenly, Lu Chen revealed a cruel smile. "Are you sure you know me well?" Lu Chen's smile was so cold that it made one's hair stand on end. The puppet master frowned slightly. "Solipsistic, stop lying to yourself. With me here, you have no chance of winning. This is your life. You can't change it." Lu Chen suddenly shouted angrily, "My life is up to me, not the heavens." Suddenly, an item appeared in Lu Chen's hand. Upon seeing this item, the puppet master's eyes couldn't help but widen in disbelief. Dragon blood crystal. The black dragon blood crystal was almost as tall as Lu Chen, and the crystals were tightly clustered together. The mountain man said that his body couldn't withstand fusing with the dragon crystal, and he had to wait until he reached the human king realm before he could use it. From this, one could see the power of this item. "I finally understand now." Lu Chen sneered. "You used the corpses of the magical beast clan to make puppets. The magical beast clan probably dared to be angry but didn't dare to say anything. They probably gave me the dragon blood because they hoped that I could kill you. Although I don't like them, I don't like you even more." With that, Lu Chen directly exited the soul-body fusion state and poured spirit energy into the dragon crystal. The dragon crystal instantly seemed to come to life and scattered into countless tiny diamond-shaped crystals, quickly climbing onto Lu Chen's body until it completely covered him. In almost an instant, apart from his face, his entire body was covered with black crystals. Lu Chen stared at the puppet master. "You know everything about me, but I bet you definitely won't guess that I can fuse with the dragon crystal. Since you can't guess, then your undefeated streak doesn't exist." The puppet master finally panicked a little. He looked at Lu Chen in horror. "Damn it, why you actually? Are you crazy? With your body, do you think you can fuse with the dragon crystal? I think the result is that I don't even need to do anything. You will die from the dragon crystal's backlash." Although that was what he said, the puppet master didn't dare to be sure. He hurriedly controlled the 4 supreme puppets to launch a fierce attack on Lu Chen. However, the dragon crystal was like a suit of armor, blocking all the attacks. The puppet master was at his wit's end. He could only watch Lu Chen fuse with the dragon blood crystal. At the same time, Lu Chen's face had turned pale because of the pain. All the bones, muscles, nerves, and cells in his body seemed to be crushed inch by inch. This kind of pain was simply unbearable. Lu Chen's vision began to blur and he became delirious. He was about to faint. However, just as he was about to faint, Lu Chen's gaze fell on the little furball and the little beast lying in the distance. He couldn't die. If he died, who would avenge Originator? Thinking of this, Lu Chen forced himself to stay alert. Large amounts of blood gushed out from the corners of his eyes, ears, mouth, and mouth. It was like a stream of water, gushing out continuously. Lu Chen only felt that his body was no longer his own. Even his breathing had stopped. His eyelids drooped again. It seemed that he couldn't hold on any longer. His physical body was indeed too weak. It was impossible for him to withstand the fusion of the dragon crystal. As Lu Chen's signs of life gradually weakened, the dragon crystal gradually stopped as if it had lost its vitality. Ha, 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 I knew you couldn't hold on any longer. You really gave me a fright just now. The puppet master was relieved to see that the vitality on Lu Chen's face was fading away. Reason told him that the solipsistic couldn't complete the fusion. However, this guy had created too many miracles. Theoretically speaking, he wasn't safe. Solipsistic, I didn't know that I didn't kill you. I forced you to die. The so-called strongest original god. Ha, 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 how sad. What a pity for this dragon crystal. Damn it. You're already dead. You wasted such an important treasure. I'm so angry. Okay, it's time to put an end to this. Your battle pet will die with you. Sky-swallowing rat, beast god, TSK, TSK, TSK. Winged dragon, you were killed by the solipsistic when you were alive. This time, I'll give you a chance to avenge yourself. Kill them. Remember, don't damage their bodies too much. I'm going to make them into puppets. The puppet master moved his finger. The winged dragon had already walked toward the wounded beast god and the little furball. The winged dragon raised its claw, ready to kill them. At this moment, the spiritual chi in the surroundings that had already stopped moving suddenly surged. Something seemed to be gathering quickly. Chapter 902. Everything had spiritual chi, and spiritual chi was everywhere. Many years ago, in the spirit-gathering mountain range of the second heaven, a ball of spiritual chi was accidentally turned into a small ball of air. The ball of air didn't dissipate quickly. Instead, as it rotated, the surrounding spiritual chi was constantly drawn to it. Day after day, year after year, the ball of spiritual chi became bigger and bigger. When an insect flew over, it would turn into an insect. When a bird flew over, it would turn into a bird. The bird didn't fly high, but it wanted to fly higher and higher. Finally, it rushed into the turbulence of spiritual chi and fell heavily to the ground. However, it didn't stop trying. It turned into a bird again and again to feel the turbulence. Until one day, when it couldn't resist the turbulence again, it suddenly had an idea. It turned into spiritual chi. From then on, it could fly freely in the turbulence, even if it was in the form of a bird. One day, in the quiet spirit-gathering mountain range, a man broke in. He came to its residence and defeated it easily. In order to survive, the ball of spiritual chi hid a puppet. After that man got the puppet, it became that man's puppet. In the blink of an eye, several years had passed. Over the years, it gradually changed from a ball of spiritual chi without consciousness to a lot of changes. It had its own friend, a little white field mouse, and many other strange mythical beasts. It also had a master, the man who had broken in, who took it to fight everywhere. In the third heaven, its master had to leave it there for some reason, but it longed to continue its adventures with its master and the fluffy ball. In the third heaven, it got in touch with more and more people, and understood many things that it didn't understand before. Its intelligence was also gradually becoming clearer. It knew its own strengths and weaknesses, and it knew how to make up for its weaknesses. In the fifth heaven, the fluffy ball was still so terrifying, and there was another guy beside its master. The fluffy ball said that he was a powerful beast god. Compared to these two guys, Originator seemed to be the weakest one. However, in fact, everyone got one thing wrong. In the past 5 years, Originator didn't become stronger. The only thing that changed was that it became more and more aware of what it was. Everything had spiritual chi, and Originator was formed by the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. It was not a puppet. It was the spirit of all things. It didn't need to become stronger. What it needed was to understand itself. Roar, a roar was heard. The surrounding spiritual energy instantly condensed into a huge pale moon silver wolf. In an instant, it appeared in front of the little furball and the little beast god. It stood up and clawed at the Kuei cow's body, tearing out several ghastly wounds. One could even see the mechanisms inside the wounds. The Kuei ox was known for its strength, and its defense was extremely high. However, it was unable to defend in time and was sent flying, crashing heavily into the wall. Little Hairy Ball and Little Beast God looked at the silver wolf in shock. Beast God said in disbelief. Xiao Yuan. Just now, the 4 replicas of the 4 Supreme Being puppets had suddenly exploded inside their bodies. The energy that had been triggered was simply beyond their imagination. In order to protect them, Little Originator turned its body into a shield and blocked most of the damage for them. Just like that, the Beast God and Little Furball were severely injured. Originally, he thought that the Sub-Originator, who had suffered the most damage, would definitely die, but the Sub-Originator suddenly appeared in front of them. Furthermore, the Sub-Originator seemed even more terrifying than before. With a single attack, he had sent one of the 4 paragons, the Kuei Ox King, flying. That guy, remained unharmed after the explosion of the 4 Emperor's elixirs. The puppet master could hardly believe his eyes. No, it's even stronger. The puppet master tried to take control of the Kuei Ox King, only to find that the latter was more severely injured than he had imagined. The Kuei Ox King puppet was crippled with 1 strike. That's impossible. The Kuei Ox King's defense is invincible. It can't be that powerful. All of a sudden, the puppet master seemed to have thought of something. No, it has absorbed the energy from the explosion of the elixirs. Yes, the puppet master had noticed it when he was controlling the 3 Supreme Being puppets to fight against the 3 battle pets. At first, the puppet master was the least eye-catching one. Its defense was weaker than the sky-swallowing rats, and its attacks were weaker than beast gods. However, the puppet master had a horrifying ability. It was immune to all physical and spirit attacks, and would only be vulnerable to elemental attacks. It seemed that the puppet master would become more and more powerful as the battle progressed. The longer the battle lasted, the more horrifying the puppet master's attacks would be. As a matter of fact, the puppet master had done a thorough investigation of Lu Chen. He had studied Lu Chen's unique skills and his 2 battle pets thoroughly. That was why the puppet master was able to gain the upper hand in the battle and push Lu Chen into a corner. However, apart from the dragon crystal, there was something else that the puppet master had neglected. The Sub-Originator. The Sub-Originator hadn't been with the Solipsistic since the beginning. It had returned to Lu Chen in the end. During the battle against the 7 gods, the Sub-Originator's performance was far less impressive than that of the Furball and Beast God. The puppet master had taken the Sub-Originator's combat strength into account, but he didn't know that the Sub-Originator would become more and more powerful as the battle progressed. Of course, even if the Sub-Originator was strong, the puppet master was confident that he could kill the Sub-Originator. Who could withstand the explosion of 4 Supreme Being puppets at the same time? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the Beast God and the Furball would have been killed if it weren't for the Sub-Originator. However, things seemed to be going beyond the puppet master's expectation. Not only had the Sub-Originator protected the Beast God and the Furball, it had also absorbed the spiritual power from the explosions, making it even more horrifying. The Sub-Originator was as horrifying as the explosion of the 4 Supreme Being puppets could be. What on earth is this guy? The Sub-Originator was as fast as a streak of light, it passed through the Torch Dragon's body in the blink of an eye. The puppet master tried to make the Torch Dragon Supreme puppet dodge, but he couldn't keep up with the Sub-Originator's speed. After a boom, the Torch Dragon Supreme's torso was blown up. The complicated structure inside Lu Chen's chest was revealed. A woo! The Sub-Originator howled and cut off the winged dragon's neck the next second. In the blink of an eye, 3 of the 4 Supreme Being puppets had been destroyed. The puppet master couldn't believe his eyes. That's even stronger than an immortal realm cultivator. The sub-originator was so fast, strong, and aggressive that even an immortal realm cultivator would be torn apart by it. That's impossible. Did I miscalculate? It was the most powerful battle pet. That's impossible. It can't be that strong. There was only one ancestor dragon puppet left, it couldn't have stopped the sub-originator. The puppet master quickly turned around and looked at Lu Chen. The guy probably didn't know that his battle pet was that strong, or he wouldn't have fused the dragon crystal in such a hurry. His body couldn't have withstood the power of the fusion. It seemed that the solipsistic was doomed. Since that was the case, there was no need for him to waste more time on that horrifying battle pet. With that in mind, the puppet master quickly opened a portal to the sixth heaven. Solipsistic, you may have passed my test, but so what? You're already a dead man. The puppet master roared and caught the sub-originator's attention. Bastard, watch carefully. Then, the sub-originator kicked Lu Chen into the portal. The sub-originator was so angry that its eyes almost popped out. It picked up the beast god and the furball, then turned into a streak of light and chased into the portal. Chapter 903. This time, the puppet master was quick to react. No one knew what he did, but there was a slight change in the teleportation gate. But the originator didn't care about that at all and jumped into the portal. The puppet master didn't breathe a sigh of relief until those people were sent to the sixth heaven. He had thought of everything, but he had missed one thing. He was almost killed by that guy. It's a pity that the three most powerful puppets are missing. But at least the solipsistic is dead. That guy can absorb so much spiritual power. No, I have to go to the sixth heaven as soon as possible and catch the three ownerless battle pets. The puppet master looked back at the broken puppets and felt his heart ache. I can't go to the sixth heaven so casually. I'd better fix these puppets first. There was no telling if Lu Chen was the first person in history to be kicked to the next level by a celestial realm boss. The place where he was born was a lake, and his heavy body was sinking continuously. Fortunately, the clear water orb was slowly rotating around Lu Chen so that Lu Chen wouldn't drown first. Boss! Boss! Two voices were trying to wake Lu Chen up. Wake up! Little Green was at her wit's end. Boss's vital signs were fading fast, and his heartbeat and breathing were getting weaker and weaker. Boss! Where's the originator? Why isn't the originator here yet? Go and save Boss. She watched the originator rush to the portal. Why hadn't it shown up yet? There was no telling how much time had passed, but the originator still hadn't shown up. Sister Green, the originator didn't go into the portal with Boss. Have they been teleported to somewhere else? Xiao Min asked. What should we do? There are so many monsters around. They couldn't see what was around them, but they could sense that a lot of huge shadows were moving around. It was hard to count how many of them there were. Maybe it was the dragon crystal that had attracted those monsters. Without soul body as one, Lu Yi and Xiao Min had almost no way to pull Lu Chen out of the water. At the bottom of the lake, huge creatures that could not be seen clearly swam past. They were very interested in this thing that had suddenly appeared, but they did not dare to approach it for the time being. They were still probing the surroundings. If this continued, Boss would be eaten by these fellows. Where is this place? Why are there so many magical beasts? Lu Yi was already worried to death. Boss, I beg you, quickly wake up. Even when Lu Chen fell to the bottom of the lake, he still showed no signs of waking up. The surrounding monsters actually began to fight each other. The water current shook violently, and it was filled with the smell of blood. After an unknown period of time, from the moment they arrived until now, the killing in the surroundings had not stopped for even a moment. The area illuminated by the clear water pearl had already turned red. Are they fighting over who the boss belongs to? Xiao Min and Little Green, the two ghosts, stood guard by Lu Chen's side. Xiao Min sadly said, Sister Lu, boss, boss, already, no longer has any signs of life. Lu Yi was already choking with sobs. Boss, Xiaomin only felt that her entire world was collapsing. This invincible war god, no matter what kind of strong enemy he met, he could always turn defeat into victory. But this time, boss had not been able to withstand the dragon crystal. The surrounding monsters became bigger and bigger. It was unknown where they had come from, but they were still fighting each other. When they're done fighting, they'll eat boss. Don't tell me boss's corpse won't even be whole. Lu Yi already wanted to cry, but no tears came out. These days, she had already cried all her tears. No. Sister Lu, there's still a way to revive boss. Xiao Min suddenly said. Lu Yi suddenly looked up at Xiao Min. Sister Lu, do you still remember boss has a stone called the Desolate Heaven Blood Demon Stone? That's a treasure dropped by the Desolate God, it can revive the body. Speaking of that stone, Lu Yi immediately remembered. Sister Lu, boss gave you the authority to use his backpack. Quickly look for it. Lu Yi hurriedly searched Lu Chen's backpack and finally found that red stone. Found it. Sister Lu, this thing can't be directly consumed. Back then, boss put another profound ice god's blood stone into Sister Shuangling's body and saved her. Should we also, Lu Yi nodded, this god's blood stone should be used directly on the body. It must be absorbed by the body. After saying this, Lu Yi took out a knife and pointed it at Lu Chen's heart. She was a bit unsure if she should do this. Sister Lu, hurry up. Boss doesn't have much time left. We can only gamble once. Lu Yi clenched her teeth and pressed her entire body against the knife. Now that the dragon crystal no longer had any protection, Lu Chen would not resist the attack. As long as she used some strength, she would be able to cut open Lu Chen's chest. With a pu sound, the knife accurately pierced Lu Chen's chest and opened up a hole where his heart was. However, after opening Lu Chen's chest, a large amount of blood flowed out from Lu Chen's body. It was completely unimaginable. Heavens, the dragon crystal had already shattered all of boss's organs. His heart was also badly damaged. Even so, boss was still able to hold on until now. Lu Yi's tears flowed down along with the flow of water. There was no time to lose. No matter what the situation was now, they could only try everything they could. Xiao Min pried open Lu Chen's wound while Lu Yi stuffed the desolate ice god's blood stone into the wound and quickly pressed down on the wound. The two of them tightly pressed down on Lu Chen's wound. From each other's eyes, one could see the nervousness, apprehension, anticipation, and fear. Please, it has to work. Time seemed to stop at this moment. Their heartbeats, like Lu Chen's, completely stopped. The battle between the monsters seemed to have finally ended. There were simply too many monsters. It seemed a little difficult to fight for first place. They only managed to get rid of some of the weaker monsters. The remaining huge shadows swarmed towards Lu Chen. Not good. We're finished. However, at this moment, a bloody light gradually appeared on Lu Chen's chest. Immediately after, the incalculable amount of blood in the surrounding water began to flow into Lu Chen's chest wound. Lu Yi and Xiao Min hurriedly released their hands to prevent them from hindering Lu Chen from absorbing the blood. A large amount of blood flowed into Lu Chen's body. At the same time, countless behemoths pounced towards Lu Chen. However, just as they approached, an extremely powerful suction force came over. These behemoths' bodies twisted crazily in the water, trying to resist this terrifying force. However, the moment they approached Lu Chen, their bodies were directly pressed into a pool of blood that continuously flowed into Lu Chen's body. One monster's body after another was absorbed by Lu Chen. The dragon crystal that had long lost its luster actually lit up again at this moment. Chapter 904. The thick blood attracted an endless stream of monsters, and in the end, they were absorbed by the desolate heaven blood demon stone. The blood of a large number of monsters dyed the entire area red, and this blood attracted even more monsters. 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, 10 days. 1 month, 2 months. Xiao Min and the rest now understood that they were not at the bottom of the lake, but at the bottom of the sea. The number of monsters absorbed by the desolate heaven blood demon stone was almost uncountable. 3 months later, the dragon crystal that covered Lu Chen's body suddenly underwent a terrifying change. It began to become even smaller, and drilled into Lu Chen's body. The desolate heaven blood demon stone no longer absorbed any more blood, and the wound on his chest began to heal. 3 days later, the man who had been sleeping for 3 months finally opened his eyes. Lu Chen slightly opened his eyes, but before he could think, he suddenly found himself underwater. "Boss, is that you?" Little Green's voice sounded, making Lu Chen even more surprised. "If it's not me, who is it? Why am I here? Am I not in Tong Tian Tower?" Lu Yi finally heaved a sigh of relief. "Boss, it's really you. We thought you were dead." Seeing Lu Chen's transformation with their own eyes, Lu Yi and Xiao Min were afraid that the person who had woken up might not be their boss anymore. But fortunately, this fellow had a confused look, indicating that he was still the original Lu Chen. "Boss, this is the 6th layer of heaven." 6th layer of heaven? Lu Chen blinked his eyes. When did he come to the 6th layer of heaven? Why didn't he know? Didn't I nearly die at the hands of the puppet master? How could I be in the 6th layer of heaven? Oh, right, where's the dragon crystal? Lu Chen touched his body. The crystals that covered his body were gone. "Boss, let's go up first. This place is too terrifying. We'll tell you what happened after we go up," Xiao Min said. She really did not like this place. There was blood everywhere. Lu Chen swam to the surface of the water and found himself in a vast sea. This is the 6th layer of heaven. Even Lu Chen found it hard to imagine his previous unimaginable experience. Now, he urgently wanted to know what happened during the period of time he lost consciousness. Lu Chen found a small island with great difficulty and swam to the shore. So tired. This shouldn't be. How long have I swum? How can I be so tired? Lu Chen found it strange. But after thinking about it, perhaps it was because he had been unconscious for too long. He did not have the time to care about that. He summoned Little Min and Little Green to ask about what had happened. The two of them hurriedly told Lu Chen everything that had happened before. After Lu Yi of heaven of heaven. E of hell E. Xiao Min's face was full of excitement. Seeing their boss standing in front of them alive and well, it was as if they had just walked through the gates of hell. Lu Chen blinked. He did not use the desolate heaven blood evil stone because he wanted to use it to save his life. But he did not expect the process to be so bizarre. "You're saying that I've absorbed the blood essence of countless monsters?" Lu Chen looked at his chest. There wasn't even a single wound on his chest. "That's right, boss." "Oh right, take a look at your status panel." Lu Chen nodded. He had just woken up and was still in a daze, so he had forgotten about this matter. In his status panel, there were no changes to his attributes. But what was depressing was that other than his body being permanently damaged, he now had an additional status. Easy fatigue status. Physical and spiritual energy consumption increased by 300%. Damn, what the hell is this? Lu Chen was on the verge of collapse. Finally, at the bottom of his status panel, he found a few lines of data that had not been there before. Dragon type, unknown mutant dragon, level, first job transition, type unknown. Currently, it is confirmed that the death rebirth effect cannot be activated. Lu Chen frowned. Did he really fuse with the dragon crystal? After the fusion, there was a mutation. Currently, the system was unable to detect the type of mutation. It could only confirm that he was not like other demon beasts, who could be reborn several times after a few transformations. I don't even have the most terrifying ability of demon beasts. How the hell am I fusing with it? Lu Chen shook his head. There were some explanations below. Lu Chen continued reading. Due to forcefully activating the dragon seed without sufficient attributes, the host is currently in a weak state. In this state, the body is easy to fatigue. Physical and spiritual energy consumption increases by 10 times. Recovery skills and recovery pills cannot be used. In this state, the host is unable to increase any attributes. Attribute rearing dragon crystal obtained. It can remove the weak state. However, the method of removing the weak state for a dragon seed is currently unknown. Lu Chen was shocked. He had really fused with the dragon crystal. But the result of the mutation was that he was now very weak. His physical and spiritual energy consumption had increased by 11 times. And he could not recover. The key point was that he was now a cripple. His attributes were already half of normal. In addition, his consumption was 10 times higher than others. He was completely crippled. Oh my god, what the hell is this? What kind of bird dragon seed is this? Lu Chen broke down. I should have killed the 9-headed dragon back then. Otherwise, it would have used this thing to harm me. And that desolate evil blood stone. The name is so awesome. Why did it mutate into such a thing? Other dragon seeds can be reborn. After each rebirth, they become much stronger. They also have ways to recover from the weak state. Mine has no ability at all. My weak state is even worse than others. In the end, I don't even know how to remove the weak state. Lu Chen looked hopeless. Comparisons were odious. This mutation of his felt that his weakened state was stronger than other dragon species. My consumption is 10 times that of others. Forget it, don't stop me. Let this cripple die in the sea. Boss, that. Actually, at least you survived. Xiao Min hurriedly comforted him. Lu Yi also said, if it wasn't for the dragon crystal and desolate evil blood stone, you would have died in the hands of the puppet master. Even if you didn't die in his hands, you would have died in the mouths of those terrifying creatures just now. Boss, Little Originator and the rest have also entered the 6th heaven. But it seems that the heaven domain boss used some method. We don't know where they are now. Lu Chen shook his head. It was not enough that he had suffered a blow, but he had also lost Little Originator and the rest. Damn it, the puppet master. Lu Chen's eyes were burning with rage. Lu Chen felt indescribably aggrieved about the puppet master. In fact, if the puppet master had not studied him so thoroughly, he might not have been able to suppress him. Now, not only did he almost kill him, but he had also lost Beast God, Furball, and Little Originator. Just you wait. One day, I'll go back and kill you. Lu Chen gnashed his teeth and said. Back at the moment, Lu Chen tried to find Furball and the others with the battle pet system, but to no avail. The maps of the other areas are not open. I can't find them. Lu Chen frowned. Yes, he was in the 6th heaven, a brand new heaven domain. Of course, the map was not open. Lu Chen took a deep breath and looked up at the surrounding environment. He was now on a small island surrounded by the vast sea. Was this the 6th heaven? The spiritual energy here was indeed much more abundant than in the 5th heaven. Even if the 5 spiritual veins in the 5th heaven were all normal, the spiritual energy here would still be far less abundant. It was not hard to imagine that if the 5 spiritual veins hadn't been blocked when Lu Chen entered the 5th heaven, the cultivators he would have met would have been much more powerful. His ranking among cultivators would have been at least 10 times lower. The 6th heaven, on the other hand, had no spiritual veins, which meant that the cultivators there were definitely horrifying. Chapter 905. The mountain man said that he had to keep a low profile in the level 6 heaven. It seemed that he had to take his words into consideration. Mengpa also said that he could go to the river of forgetfulness when he had the strength to break through the level 5 heaven. I wonder what kind of boss is in the river of forgetfulness and if it can drop something good. Lu Chen was thinking about another question. Boss, Mengpa seems to want you to find the owner of the tear, not to get equipment. Lu Yi glanced at Lu Chen. Lu Chen sighed. Alas, with my current state, even if she remembers who I am, I'm afraid she won't have any ideas. Lu Chen was really miserable now. His arm was still missing. After fusing with the dragon crystal, it had mutated, and no one knew how to fix it. Now, there was also the fatigue status, which consumed 11 times more physical strength than others. The whereabouts of his 3 pets were also unknown. Having just arrived at the level 6 heaven, he couldn't be more miserable. Let's not think about it now. Although I've arrived at the level 6 heaven, I didn't come here because I have the corresponding strength. I'm afraid I can't go to the river of forgetfulness. If Originator can really defeat the 4 supreme puppets, at least the 3 of them won't be as miserable as me. Little Critter is also in human form, so it can pretend to be an animal trainer. It should be safe for the time being. Although Lu Chen was anxious to find Little Critter and the others, it seemed that it was impossible for him to do so in a short time. Lu Chen took a deep breath and began to look at the surrounding environment. He didn't know whether to call it lucky or unlucky. This small island seemed to be a deserted one, with no traces of habitation. The good news was that at least in Lu Chen's current state, he didn't encounter any powerful cultivators who could take his life as soon as they came up. The bad news was that he still didn't know anything about the 6th layer of heaven. He knew nothing about the strength of the people here, the distribution of forces, the state of the world, and so on. By the way, the people in the mountains gave me 2 tokens. Lu Chen suddenly remembered this matter and hurriedly took out the 2 tokens. After arriving at the level 6 heaven, the words on the tokens could be seen clearly. Wunyan Sacred Courtyard Superior Recommendation Token, Thunder Sacred Courtyard Superior Recommendation Token. That guy in the mountains wants me to go to these 2 academies. Could it be that there's something in these 2 academies that can make me stronger? Lu Chen thought. The people in the mountains probably did not expect Lu Chen's current situation. There were 2 things that Lu Chen needed the most at that time. The Fiend God armor set or the 8-9 scrolls of the 9 transformations of the Fiend God. As for other things, such as beast cores and extraction scrolls, they did not necessarily have to go to a specific place to get them. It was probably not the intention of the mountain people. Unfortunately, there were only these few words on the token. There wasn't even a location, let alone any other information. Lu Chen could only speculate about the intentions of the people in the mountains. Now was not the time to consider which academy to choose. Lu Chen put away the token. He then looked at his own cultivation level and found that it had been kept at the 6th heavenly layer. 1-star wild cultivator, ranking, ominous. It was probably because his ranking was so low that he didn't want to count it anymore. Miserable. Lu Chen shook his head and sighed. I can only take it easy. At least I survived. Lu Chen stood up and rubbed his hands. Let's eat something first. I feel like I can eat a kuei cow now. Survival in the wild became survival on a deserted island. Lu Chen first found a cave in the reef area that could shelter him, then wandered around the island. He found fresh water resources. Little Green and Xiao Min also picked a lot of fruits and vegetables. 1 man and 2 ghosts brought a bunch of things back to their residence. After a busy day, Lu Chen was already very tired. He had used up 11 times his physical strength and was still unable to replenish it. He clearly felt the horror of the fatigue state. If he encountered a protracted battle, he would be exhausted before the battle was over. Boss, let's cook. You rest. Little Green saw that Lu Chen's expression was not too good, so he rushed to do the work. Lu Chen nodded. He sat there alone and stared blankly at the burning bonfire. Xiao Min sat beside Lu Chen and comforted him. "Boss, don't be discouraged. Everything will get better. You've gone through so many setbacks in the past, but you never gave up." Lu Chen shook his head. "I'm not discouraged. I'm thinking about how to leave this place. It's not easy to come to the sixth heaven, but I can't really live the life of a savage here." Lu Chen looked back at the island in the night. "With my current physical strength, I'm afraid I can't cross the sea. Even if I activate soul body as one, I only have an hour's time. Even if I ride the nine-winged, I probably won't be able to reach the mainland. So, we have to make a bamboo raft to leave this place." "Bamboo raft?" "Yes, most of the ingredients in my backpack are spoiled. I also need to prepare enough water and food. Damn it, we don't even know how big this sea is, and when we can go ashore." Unknowingly, the sky had darkened. Just as Lu Chen was carefully planning how to escape from the uninhabited island, a gust of wind blew over the sea. The previously calm sea suddenly had a violent storm, and huge waves surged to the sky. A single wave could almost reach a height of tens of meters. Lu Chen originally wanted to escape with the help of the bamboo raft, but when he imagined the bamboo raft being lifted off by the huge waves, Lu Chen could not help but shiver. With such huge waves, even a huge ship would be overturned, let alone a bamboo raft. What exactly is in this sea?" Lu Chen stared with his eyes wide open. "Damn, with such huge waves at night, how can we escape?" A dignified cultivator who had broken into the sixth heavenly layer was actually trapped on an island. Lu Chen felt that no one would believe such a thing. On the 30th day of his arrival on the island, Lu Chen caught a lot of fresh seafood. He was humming a song while cooking delicious food. These days, the calm sea surface had a different appearance every night, as if the sea god was angry. There were a few times when the island was almost submerged. Lu Chen was very self-aware and cancelled the bamboo raft escape plan. But to be honest, the island's resources were still very rich. The fruits were delicious, the seafood was fresh, and there was a variety of varieties. During the day, when there were no wind wolves, he could also bask in the sun on the shore. It was very comfortable. Lu Chen had lived here for a month and had already become a local. He knew everything on the island like the back of his hand. Just as Lu Chen was enjoying the delicious food, a huge dragon suddenly appeared in the sky. Lu Chen looked up at the sky, and his eyebrows gradually furrowed. Not long after, the huge clawed dragon directly landed on the island. 7 or 8 young men and women walked down from the dragon's back. They walked in front of Lu Chen as if nothing had happened. These days, Lu Chen's skin was dark. He had been fishing alone every day, and it had not been repaired for a long time. It was a little damaged. Furthermore, he only had one arm. Among the people, a few beautiful young ladies saw Lu Chen's cave residence from afar, and then looked at the person in front of them. "A star-field great cultivator. You are a local here." "A local?" Lu Chen had only been here for a month, and he was very compatible with this island. "You are?" Lu Chen asked tentatively. "A few days ago, there was a blood fiend image here. Our master asked us to come and investigate." "Hey, since you're a native of this place, have you noticed anything amiss around here?" a man asked. The other disciples whispered, "Master said that the blood fiend image here is extremely terrifying. It should be the birth of some extremely evil demon. Recently, I heard some prophecies about some strange movements in the ominous demon sea. I don't know if it has anything to do with this." Lu Chen was stunned when he heard this. He glanced at the badges on their chests, and he could not see their level. Their technique should be similar to Luo Yao's spiritual power. In other words, the lowest level of these brats was at least a 5-star emperor. It was best not to have anything to do with the image of Blood Fiend. I didn't see it. Lu Chen smiled slightly, revealing his white teeth on his tanned face. Chapter 906. The person who asked the question glanced at Lu Chen and felt that he was very simple. How many years have you lived on this island? I don't remember. Lu Chen said. That's pretty good. You're quite carefree and aloof from worldly affairs. Lu Chen nodded. On the surface, he answered all the questions and said everything he knew. However, at this moment, Lu Chen's heart was extremely excited. It was so hard to wait for someone to come. This was the only chance to leave the island. These people did not take him seriously. This way, it would be easier for him to hide and not arouse their suspicion. Everyone, you must be tired after coming all the way here. I just made some seafood here. Why don't you come and try it? It's rare for someone to come here. Let me do my best as a host. Lu Chen said enthusiastically. The two female disciples covered their mouths and snickered. It's only an hour or so. What's so hard about it? Aya, don't say that. That's because we have 9 claws. For a grand cultivator like him, he probably can't even cross the sea of demons. Yeah, look at his broken arm. I guess he was attacked by sea beasts when he went out to sea. These people were not old. Seeing that Lu Chen was just a sea citizen, they did not have their guard up. It's rare for us to come out. Long seafood is not bad. Uncle, we won't stand on ceremony then. Lu Chen hurriedly smiled. There's no need to stand on ceremony. I don't have anything else here. I can't finish the seafood. Saying that, he quickly brought them to his cave. The grilled fish on the fire rack was almost done. The aroma spread out, making one salivate. Lu Chen slightly processed it and passed it to the two female disciples. Please wait for a moment. It will be done soon. The female disciple said embarrassedly, Senior brother, I'll try it first. The two of them carefully took a bite. After tasting it carefully, their eyes widened. Delicious. Our school's food can't compare at all. Is there a need to be so exaggerated? Is it really that delicious? It's really delicious. I've never eaten such a unique grilled fish. Lu Chen heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that foodies were everywhere. Not long after, these people had already formed a circle around the bonfire. Everyone was full of praise for Lu Chen's craftsmanship. The atmosphere suddenly became harmonious. Uncle, your craftsmanship is really good. It's a waste of talent for you to stay on this small island. Uncle, what's the level of your cooking? Lu Chen smiled and said, Usually, I don't have much to do, so I just study cooking. I'm now a 9-star cooking master. 9 stars, no wonder. Back where we are, everyone is thinking about cultivation. No one is so focused on cooking. Uncle, why don't you come with us to the academy? With your skills, it won't be difficult for you to find a job in the dining hall. When the time comes, we'll be able to enjoy it as well. Lu Chen said, Actually, I also want to leave this place. However, as you can see, I can't leave the Sea of Ominous Demons. The so-called Sea of Ominous Demons, Lu Chen didn't know about it at all. He only heard about it from these people. That's not difficult. If Uncle wants to leave, we can bring you out. It's just one more person. Lu Chen's face was expressionless, but he was so excited that he was about to cry. Finally, he was going to leave this broken island. 9 claws' speed was several times faster than 9 wings. It was really riding on the clouds. Not long after, Lu Chen could no longer see the small island. Looking down from above, Lu Chen could see the surrounding environment clearly. The Sea of Ominous Demons was extremely wide. When the small island disappeared from his sight, he could only see the sea as far as the eye could see. If Master didn't lend us 9 claws, we wouldn't dare to come to the Sea of Ominous Demons. A disciple said. Now, the Sea of Ominous Demons is still calm. When night comes, it will be a real mess. Even if we fall into the sea, only death awaits us. Lu Qin listened to these guys talking about the Sea of Ominous Demons and felt suspicious. Was the Sea of Ominous Demons so dangerous? He had stayed in the sea for God knows how many days, and God knows how many demon beasts he had absorbed. In the end, he mutated into such a trashy dragon species. He really wanted to cry but had no tears. However, it seemed that 9 Claws' level was very high. It was the mount of one of their masters. They couldn't cross the Sea of Ominous Demons by themselves. The Heaven Domain boss of the 5th Heaven Domain was really cautious. Knowing that he had almost no chance of survival, he still threw him into the Sea of Ominous Demons. He was afraid that he wouldn't die completely. This debt, he must settle with him properly in the future. After about an hour, Lu Qin saw the continent in front of him. Was that the continent of the 6th heaven? Everyone, may I ask, is that the continent of the 6th heaven? Lu Qin asked. As soon as he finished asking, the disciples looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. Uncle, have you really stayed on the island for too long that you don't even remember the outside world? Prosperous Origin Continent naturally belongs to the 6th heaven. The other party's answer stunned Lu Qin. This continent was called Prosperous Origin Continent, but it wasn't the 6th heaven. It only belonged to the 6th heaven. In other words, there were many such continents in the 6th heaven. Lu Qin knew that if he continued to ask, the other party would inevitably be suspicious. He could only suppress his doubts and follow these disciples. Half an hour later, 9 Claws circled a few times in front of a towering mountain peak and stopped. Lu Qin noticed the name of the academy. It was called Paladin Academy. It wasn't one of the 2 great academies recommended to him by the people in the mountains. Uncle, are you sure you don't want to stay in our Paladin Academy? The treatment here is quite good. A female disciple said. Lu Qin smiled. Thank you, I want to go out and take a look. Then. Alright, take this temporary pass down the mountain. The pass is effective for 2 hours. You have to leave the mountain as soon as possible during this time. Lu Qin took the talisman. I'm really grateful to all of you. If there's a chance in the future, I will properly thank all of you. Of course. We don't ask for much. Just treat us to a meal. The girl smiled. Lu Qin was grateful to this group of disciples from the bottom of his heart. Although he didn't treat them honestly, it was also because he had his own difficulties. If others linked him to the blood fiend elephant, with his current strength, he might not be able to contend against them. In short, he had a good impression of this Paladin Academy. Right, there's one more thing I want to ask all of you. May I ask if you know about Void Academy and Thunder Academy? We haven't heard of Thunder Academy. However, since it's called Academy, it means that it's very strong. Oh, of course, Void Academy is an exception. They can't even be considered as an academy. The disciple couldn't help but laugh. The 6th heaven is called the Cultivation Heavenly Domain. This is the Golden Cultivation Heavenly Domain. Whether or not you can lay a solid foundation for a higher heavenly domain depends on this. There are countless great academies, powers, and sections. We don't know all of them. Uncle, why are you asking this? Lu Qin hurriedly smiled. Oh, I've only heard about it. It's nothing, alright, uncle. Then you should quickly leave the mountain. After the pass is ineffective, you won't be able to pass through the mountain. After Lu Qin thanked them again, he quickly went down the mountain. He finally came out of the sea of ferocious demons. However, it seemed that he had more and more questions in his heart. Damn it, what the hell is this 6th heavenly layer? Lu Qin couldn't help but curse. Chapter 907. The market at the foot of the mountain was very lively, but strangely, the people here only sold basic materials. Lu Chen had not seen anything related to immortal cultivation. The fifth heaven was so turbulent, and there were immortal cultivators opening shops to do business. Up until now, the sixth heaven felt quite peaceful, except for the blood demon phenomenon, and there were no immortal cultivators to be seen. Lu Chen was bored by himself, so he let Little Green accompany him for a stroll. The level of the commoners doing business was not low. Most of them were great cultivators, and some were earth cultivators. Interestingly, their badges seemed to be different from Lu Chen's. Other than the cultivation level, their badges had a variety of shapes. It looked a bit like the emblem of the Heart Refining Academy, but with the cultivation level added on top. Watching a young earth cultivator roll up his sleeves and pour a box of sea fish into the water tank, Lu Chen felt his scalp go numb. A dignified earth cultivator doing this? Hey, kid, looking for a job? That person saw Lu Chen strolling on the street, and his gaze stopped at his badge and missing arm. Our academy won't accept people like you. Lu Chen felt like he was struck by lightning. He did not plan to look for a job, but the other party ruthlessly hit him. No one would want someone like him even if he moved goods. Lu Chen asked, "Little brother, you're also from the academy?" Of course, only by joining the academy can you get cultivation resources. But now I can't become an official disciple, so I'm temporarily helping the sect take care of some daily business. I see. Then little brother, do you know about the Thunder Academy and the Wu Nian Academy? The Wu Nian Academy closed down. Thunder Academy? Never heard of it. After the little brother finished speaking, he turned around and went to unload the goods. Lu Chen was stunned. The Wu Nian Academy, closed down. When the little brother came back, he found that the man with the missing arm was still standing there. He looked up at him in surprise. Why haven't you left? Little brother, I'll bother you again. You said that the Wu Nian Academy closed down. When did this happen? Sigh, you're so strange, as if you've just arrived at the sixth heaven. With your level, it's impossible for you to have come from the fifth heaven. How about this? I'm almost done with my work, do you have the money to treat me to a meal? Lu Chen was speechless. Could an earth elementalist only be able to freeload? Yes. Alright, then wait for me for a while. I'll unload 2 more boxes. Let's go to Rui restaurant. Since you don't have much money, let's get some cheaper food. Not long after, the young man finally finished his work. He changed his clothes and went to eat with Lu Chen. The young man said that he didn't want to drink. He had to work in the afternoon, so he only ordered a few dishes and a bowl of rice. It seemed that he was starving. Little brother, you're an earth cultivator. Don't you have any spirit stones on you? Lu Chen asked curiously. Do you know which academy I'm from? I'm from Tianxian Academy. Do you think the 5 million admission fee is fake? I borrowed 3 million from a former friend, and now I have a huge debt. The man explained as he ate. That's right. Hey, do you want to go to Wu Nian Academy? I understand. With your qualifications, I guess only Wu Nian Academy would accept you. Unfortunately, they were ranked at the bottom of the academy rankings this year, so they were forced to close down. Lu Chen frowned. After they close down, what will happen to the academy's things? They will be distributed to the surrounding academies. Lu Chen felt a headache coming on. The people in the mountains must have given him these 2 tokens for a reason. Maybe Wu Nian Academy had what Lu Chen wanted. In the end, Wu Nian closed down, and the things were divided. How was he going to find them? Oh, the things have been divided, but the site is still there. In 2 weeks, powerful experts will compete for their old site at Wu Nian Academy. They will compete for the qualifications to establish a sect. When the time comes, I don't know which school will take Wu Nian's old site. After all, Wunyan Academy is of the Saint generation. Even if it is not what it used to be and has closed down, their site is still quite good. As long as they have enough financial resources, it should be possible to establish a lower house in a short time. Lu Chen hurriedly asked, compete for their old site. Yes, in the sixth heaven, the academy is the basic unit here. Some big forces want to have more academies under their name, so they will compete for the old site of some closed academies and re-establish branches. What's so strange about this? The table was full of dishes, but Lu Chen had no appetite at all. The treasures of Wunyan were divided, but the old site was still there. He didn't know if there was anything he wanted in the old site. That place must be taken. Little brother, what are the conditions to compete for the old site? It must be the academy that has been selected to send disciples to participate in the competition. Even for the old site of Sacred Academy, there are at least 20 competitors. They will send disciples within 10 years to compete for the old site. Oh, of course, the students of Wunyan are also eligible to compete. However, since they are ranked last, they basically have no chance to win. They can be ignored. Lu Chen's eyes widened. What about the people of Wunyan? People of Wunyan? Humph, they must have scattered when the tree falls. They all ran to other academies. Even the instructors there have jumped ship. I guess only the original dean is left. No matter where he goes now, no one will want him. Where is he? I don't know. After the little brother finished speaking, he asked the waiter to add another meal. The meal cost Lu Chen a few hundred spirit stones. The prices in the sixth heaven were really expensive. According to the prices, Lu Chen thought that the drunken immortal of the people in the mountains was probably not the best wine. From the little brother who unloaded the goods, Lu Chen finally got some useful information. Not only that, he also learned the location of the old site of Wunyan. It was actually hundreds of miles away from here. There were only 2 weeks to compete for the old site of Wunyan. Lu Chen went straight to the old site of Wunyan without stopping. A week later, Lu Chen finally arrived at the old site of Wunyan. The Wunyan Academy was on Wunyan Mountain. It occupied a very large area, at least 3 or 4 times the size of Paladin Academy. The buildings were all ancient and well preserved. However, at this time, only the skin of the Wunyan Academy was left. The mountain gate was sealed, and a notice of closure was posted. Looking in from the mountain gate, there was not a single soul. The students left in a hurry, leaving a lot of trash behind, scattered in the wind. In short, it was a mess. Lu Chen stretched his head and looked up from the mountain gate. At this moment, he found that there was an old man beside him, who was also stretching his neck to look inside. Both of them felt strange and looked at each other. You are, from Wunyan Academy? You are, from Wunyan Academy? The two of them spoke in unison. I am. I am. They spoke in unison again. After saying the same thing twice in a row, the two of them were confused. Hey, kid, do you really think I'm old and confused? Although Wunyan has closed down, I still remember every academy. You are not from Wunyan Academy at all. The old man's gaze stopped on Lu Chen's badge and broken arm. It was not known if it was really because of his good memory, or if it was inferred from Lu Chen's conditions. Old man, you are not the old dean of Wunyan Academy, are you? Lu Chen asked. Nonsense, of course I am. Sigh. Okay, I know. You are going to say that I am a commander without an army. The old man's face was full of pride at first, but soon his expression became lonely. Lu Chen was about to cry. After being in the sixth heaven for so long, he finally got lucky for once. He took out a token from his backpack and handed it to the old dean. I am not lying to you. I am from Wunyan Academy. From the looks of it, I am the only disciple. Chapter 908. The old man trembled as he looked at the token in his hand, then looked at Lu Chen repeatedly. His expression seemed to be even more desolate. Where did you cheat this token from? Lu Chen's enthusiasm suddenly plummeted. I didn't cheat this. A good friend gave it to me. The old man shook his head and stuffed the token into Lu Chen's hand. Sigh, forget it. Anyway, that guy cheated me more than once or twice. This time, he won't be able to cheat me. Young man, let's go. Wunyan Academy is a thing of the past. Lu Chen hurriedly pulled the old man. Dean, you have to believe me. Believe you? Look at you. Your physical body is seriously damaged. Your attributes are probably less than half of what they should be. You're still only a great cultivator. There was no hope in the old man's eyes. Do you know the strength of the disciples who came to compete for the Wunyan Academy? I don't know. Is there Theo the Great? Lu Chen must be comparing them with the ancient 7 gods. Yes, so what do you think a one-star great cultivator can do? Forget it, go back early. Besides, I'm already tired. In fact, no matter who takes over the Wunyan Academy, they will know after they enter. It's not that I'm incompetent, but that thing can't be controlled at all. Don't, Dean. Lu Chen grabbed the old man tightly. At the very least, let me participate in the competition. Anyway, it won't be worse than you think, right? The old man frowned and looked at Lu Chen. But I'm afraid of losing face again. Lu Chen was really anxious. He had to take down the old site of the Wunyan Academy, but this old man was obviously disheartened and had no fighting spirit. Then give me the position of Dean of the Wunyan Academy. In a hurry, Lu Chen suddenly said, anyway, when the time comes, it's my business to lose face. It has nothing to do with you. The old man was a little surprised now. Give the position of Dean to this kid? If it was in the past, he couldn't wait to kill this kid who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth on the spot, but it was different now. Now, as the principal, he was burdened with crimes and infamy. Dean, think about it. In the future, when people talk about the sacred courtyard of Wunyan, they will definitely say that the sacred courtyard was ruined by your hands. But if I become the dean, then all these will be counted on my head, right? Lu Chen stared at the old man. During the competition, even if I lose, I'll be the one to lose face. Also, when the time comes for the handover of the old site, you don't have to show up. I'll do it. If I manage to snatch the old site, I'll return the position of the principal to you when you return. With so many reasons, Amos' expression seemed to indicate that he was indeed tempted. Wunyan Academy will be gone soon. It's useless for you to be the dean. Instead, it will become a burden. Maybe it will affect you to join other academies. Young man, you have to think carefully. The old man stared at Lu Chen. Lu Chen took a deep breath. I've thought it through. If Dean can fulfill my wish, I, solipsistic, will be eternally grateful. The old man narrowed his eyes slightly. This kid didn't seem to be joking. Plus that token of extraordinary significance. After pondering for a long time, the old man slowly took out a token from his waist and placed it in Lu Chen's hand. The dean is yours. Even if you win the competition, you don't have to call me back. After saying that, the old man turned around and left alone. Lu Chen looked at the token in his hand. On it were written the words, Dean of the Sacred Courtyard of Wunyan. It was really unexpected. Lu Chen originally wanted to join Wunyan, be an ordinary student, and cultivate well. In the end, he became the Dean of the Sacred Courtyard of Wunyan. What's the situation? Lu Chen sighed. Since entering the 6th layer of heaven, everything was developing in an unpredictable way. When he opened his personal panel, Lu Chen saw that there was an additional asset under his name. Sacred Courtyard of Wunyan. And he also had an additional title, the Dean of the Sacred Courtyard of Wunyan. Opening the Sacred Courtyard of Wunyan, all the assets inside were frozen. There was not a single disciple in the Sacred Courtyard. In such a large list, he was the only one. Damn it, I'm really a commander without an army. However, in the menu of the Sacred Courtyard of Wunyan, there was a piece of useful information. 8 days later, the disciples of 20 sects would compete for the venue of the Sacred Courtyard of Wunyan. There were a total of 100 people, and the name of each school was on it. Lu Chen shook his head. In his current state, if he fought a protracted war, he would die. Where are the little hairball and the others? Lu Chen missed them very much. In other words, if they were here, he wouldn't have to work so hard. Lu Chen now had no right to deal with any items in the school. He couldn't even enter the Sacred Courtyard of Wunyan. He could only find an inn at the foot of the mountain and stay for the time being. At night, Lu Chen didn't cultivate, nor did he sleep. He was sitting at the table, looking at the Wunyan mountain under the moon. "Boss, take this medicine." Lu Yi brought up the freshly ground herbs. She had not given up on helping Lu Chen relieve the current negative state. "Little Green, my hand." Lu Chen turned to look at Lu Yi. Lu Yi lowered her head and didn't dare to look at Lu Chen. "Boss, to regenerate my body, I have to break through to become a 9-star alchemist." Lu Chen had been a 9-star cooking master for a long time, but to break through this level was too difficult. In fact, he didn't know how to break through. Opportunity, or some rare tool. There was no explanation, but the proficiency level reached its limit and couldn't increase anymore. Cooking was already so difficult, let alone being an alchemist. Naturally, the difficulty was even greater. Lu Chen nodded. "Don't think too much. I'm just asking. In fact, I'm used to having one arm now." "Boss, don't worry. Even if Little Green has to risk his life, he will help you heal." "Fool, what risk? You are much more important than my arm." Lu Yi was suddenly stunned, and her heart warmed. In 8 days, those guys will come to snatch the territory of Intentionless Academy. In the end, I'm the only one here. What happened to the Intentionless Academy? Lu Yi sat beside Lu Chen. "Boss, I think that old man doesn't seem to be the kind of person who doesn't care about management. He also went to check on the Intentionless Academy today. It shows that he still has deep feelings for the Academy." "Yes, I think so too. He said today that there is something uncontrollable in the Academy. I don't know if it's what I'm looking for." "Boss, you have to be careful. To be able to torment the Academy to such a state, I'm afraid it's not something easy to deal with." Lu Chen nodded. "The more powerful it is, the more I look forward to it. Forget it. Let's snatch the territory of the Intentionless Academy first." "But boss, your current body. I don't know where Little Furball, Beast God, and Little Originator are. Otherwise, they could still help you. Xiao Min and I are really useless. Don't talk about this. You have your specialties." Lu Chen smiled. "Besides, I'm just exhausted. I didn't say that I can't fight. I want to see if these people in the 6th layer have the ability to snatch the Intentionless Academy from me." Chapter 909. These days, there were people from other academies staying at the nearby inns. The time for the final competition for Wunyan Academy was getting closer and closer. Lu Chen really had nothing to practice. There were no cultivation resources at the foot of the mountain, so Lu Chen could only cultivate the spiritual power of his war soul. Little Green's medicinal treatment could not eradicate the 2 negative states, but it made Lu Chen lively all day. Most of the time, he could only eat, drink, and rest well. In the blink of an eye, the day of the competition for Wunyan Academy had arrived. The gate of Wunyan Academy opened, and groups of people walked up the mountain. Among these people, some were here to participate in the competition, and some were here to watch. After all, not everyone could be selected to compete. However, the competition between experts was the most vivid lesson. Standing in front of the mountain gate, Lu Chen took a deep breath and stepped in. As the dean of Wuxian Academy, Lu Chen had to follow others to the martial arts practice field. The martial arts practice field here looked like it had been there for a long time. The blue stone on the ground had been stepped on by the students, and there were all kinds of weapons on the side of the field. They were all low-level dark gold equipment. At this time, the martial arts practice field was full of people, at least a few thousand people. Most of them looked relaxed and at ease. They had already taken their seats and were waiting for the competition to begin. Seeing that the competition was over, not long after, an old man in a white robe walked to the middle of the martial arts practice field. He cupped his fists to everyone and bowed slightly. Everyone present also returned the greeting. First of all, on behalf of Xingyuan Continent's Qi Pavilion, I thank everyone for coming from afar. I also look forward to the wonderful performance of many juniors this time. As everyone knows, Wuxian Academy also has a glorious history. The founder of Wuxian Academy, Wu Nian, led 50 academies to the south to the Sea of Ferocious Demons, the north to the Netherworld Prison, and the west to the Corpse King. From then on, Wuxian Academy's position as the Sacred Academy was established. Now, Wuxian Academy has come to this point, which is something we did not want to see. However, although the sixth heaven is a holy land for cultivation, the competition is also very fierce. Since Wuxian Academy is difficult to maintain, then we will follow the procedure and compete for the venue of Wuxian Academy. I hope that no matter who wins and obtains this treasured land, they will be able to create more glory. Even if the holy courtyard of Wuxian had closed down, these words still had to be said. Everyone listened to him quietly. Alright, now I will announce the names of the academies. Disciples of the academies participating in the competition, please come up to the martial arts stage. Paladin Academy. When Lu Chen heard this, he couldn't help but look in the direction of Paladin Academy. The few youths who had rescued him from the island had also followed over, but it seemed that they didn't have the chance to go on stage. Their 5 senior brothers and sisters had walked onto the martial arts arena with large strides. Azure Blue Academy, another 5 people went on stage. Shanghai Academy. Immortal Path Academy. Immortal Chen Academy, Northern Sacred Institution. People glanced towards the same direction after hearing this name. Look, that's the Sacred North Pole Institution's disciple, one of the top 10 in Xingyuan Continent. Senior brother, are they very strong? Look at those few who came out, they're all so arrogant. Nonsense. Those who could enter the North Pole Academy were all geniuses. If you want to hear the stories of those heaven-defying geniuses, just go over there and ask any one of them about their experiences. Is it really that exaggerated? Of course. Among their disciples, the demon race, the god race, and the other top races make up the majority. Moreover, they are constantly increasing their recruitment of superior races. I estimate that this year, their ranking will go up. They will probably reach the top 7. The 5 participants over there were all tall and sturdy figures, and their eyes shone brightly. Surprisingly, there wasn't a single human among them. There were 2 demon race, 2 god race, and 1 god race. Fortunately, these races didn't look too different from humans in terms of appearance. Firmament Academy. The host continued to announce the next name. This time, even the people from the Sacred North Pole Institution looked at each other. This was their strongest opponent in this competition, the Sacred Institution, which was also in the top 10. The 5 people on stage were mainly from the Heavenly Demon race and the Primordial Elf race. They were all well-known experts among cultivators of the same age. Wan Yao, Yu and Honglian are both 3-star Theo the Great. A male demon race leader of the Sacred North Pole Institution suddenly asked a demon race disciple who walked onto the stage. These experts probably all knew each other. The man named Wan Yao looked at the flirtatious woman behind him and smiled. Junior sister, someone seems to be very concerned about us. The woman, who was dressed in red, covered her mouth and laughed. Jinghong, since you asked, it seems you've already reached 3-star Theo the Great. The man from the Sacred North Pole Institution smiled. It seems you don't plan to tell me. But it doesn't matter. I'll know your level soon. Yes, it said that there are treasures in the Sacred Institution of Wunyan. Who wouldn't want them? When the time comes, I'm afraid we'll have to do our best. Treasures? How come I don't know? But the Sacred Institution of Wunyan has excellent feng shui and abundant spirit qi. It's the most suitable place to be our branch. It's still too early to say if it can become your branch. There are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons coming to fight for territory. Brother Jinghong, you have to be more careful. Of course. But Wan Yao and Honglian, don't just remind me. You have to be more careful yourselves. The competition hadn't started yet, but between the academies, there was already a knife hidden in a smile, fighting openly and secretly. There were 20 academies, including 2 sacred academies, 18 academies. As for the lower academy, there wasn't a single one. It wasn't known if the lower academy wasn't qualified to participate in the drawing of lots. 100 top disciples of each academy stood on the martial arts field. Is that the strongest 10-year disciples of the 20 academies? How impressive. They're really the elites of the elites. Don't think that the disciples of the academy don't have strength. Some academies, such as Black Spear of Kanglin and Wuchang of Sacred Martial, are famous geniuses. It seems that in order to compete for the Sacred Institution of Wunyan, the academies have also sent their best disciples to participate. Isn't that so? A starving camel is still bigger than a horse. How glorious was the Sacred Institution of Wunyan back then? How many people in their territory are envious? After the host counted the number of people, he looked around. The participants of the competition have been determined. Next, according to the academies, the elimination round will be carried out. The first round, Sacred Martial against Kanglin. The rest of you go down and wait for the end of the competition. At this moment, someone suddenly walked up the ring from the side of the field. This person was dressed as a fisherman. His skin was dark with a hint of haggard. The left arm of his clothes was empty. It was actually a man with a broken arm. The badge on his chest was particularly eye-catching. Others' badges were covered in a layer of mist and couldn't be seen clearly. Only his president's badge could be seen clearly, a star field great cultivator. The old man presiding over the competition's eyebrows were almost knitted together. You, who are you? Do you know what you're doing here? You dare to go up on stage? Lu Chen shook his head. I'm sorry. Senior, did you forget a segment? I waited for a long time, but you didn't say anything. I can only go up on stage. Chapter 9-10. The people in the mountains said that after coming to the 6th heaven, one must keep a low profile. Lu Chen had always remembered this. Moreover, Lu Chen was very sure that he had done the same. With a smile on his face, he asked politely, and his movements were very low-key. Everyone present looked at Lu Chen in shock. Especially the disciples of the Academy of Sacred Martial Arts. When they saw Lu Chen, their eyeballs almost fell out. Wasn't that a native of the deserted island? How could he suddenly appear in this place? The old host frowned. I have presided over hundreds of such competitions, and you say I missed a segment. Well, then tell me, what did I miss? Senior, I remember the rules say that when fighting for the old site of the Academy of Intentionless, its own people can participate in the competition without drawing lots. The old man thought for a moment and immediately looked up at Lu Chen. There is such a rule, but so what? A sea of clouds is the only one left in the Academy of Intentionless, and as the dean, he can't participate in the competition. Lu Chen smiled slightly. Senior, you don't seem to be very well informed. In fact, there is still one more disciple in the Academy of Intentionless. Impossible. The old man immediately checked the information of the various academies. After finding the Academy of Intentionless, he pushed out a translucent window. See for yourself. According to the registration of the Academy of Intentionless, there is only one person in the entire academy, and he is the dean. Lu Chen shook his head. This matter was really difficult to explain clearly. To be honest, actually, I am the Academy of Intentionless first. In short, I am the current dean of the Academy of Intentionless. You are the dean of the Academy of Intentionless. This time, the scene was boiling. Ha ha ha, are you kidding me? He is the dean of the Academy of Intentionless. I'm dying of laughter. You must be dreaming, kid. Please take a look at yourself. You call yourself a dean. Even if the Academy of Intentionless has closed down, you can't be the dean. This person must have lost his mind. I'm dying of laughter. A disabled person fantasizing about being the dean. No one would buy him even if he sold fish. Hong Lian couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. This person is really interesting. Did he get kicked in the head? Wang Yao smiled and said, I've participated in several competitions, but this is the first time I've met such a fool. The old man was also amused by Lu Chen. He walked over and shook his head with a smile. Kid, hurry up and leave. I'll just treat your words as a joke. If you continue to cause trouble here, then don't blame me for being impolite. Lu Chen frowned. Sure enough, no one believed him every time he spoke the truth. Speaking of which, it was true that even if the old dean, a sea of clouds, saw the collapse of the holy courtyard of Wunyan, he would not let him be the dean. It was all because of that idiot Yamanaka, who insisted on introducing him to this defunct school. Lu Chen could only take out his token. Senior, this is the dean's token of Wunyan Academy, please take a look. The crowd suddenly quieted down. The old man took the token and examined it carefully. The more he looked, the more shocked he became. There was no problem with the token. In other words, this kid was really the current dean of Wunyan Academy. You. Where did you get it? The old dean gave it to me. Lu Chen put away the token. That's why I said senior is missing a link. Although I'm the dean of Wunyan Academy, the rules do not stipulate that the dean can't participate. As long as he meets the age limit, he can participate. I haven't been in level 6 for long, definitely not more than 10 years. You mean, you want to participate in the competition? Lu Chen nodded. Yes, I want to participate in the competition too. With a boom, the crowd exploded again. Looking at Deacon Han's reaction, he's really the dean. A sea of clouds is going to break the pot, so he passed the position of dean to him? That's not right. Even so, he's a one-star great cultivator. How dare he compete with those super geniuses? Isn't that courting death? Deacon Han frowned. Kid, you can participate in the competition, but you have to think clearly. Although it's a martial arts competition, with your strength, even an accidental injury may take your life. Any random person here is at least 3 major realms higher than you. Lu Chen also put away his smile. I know, but it doesn't matter. Well, since you already understand the rules, then I won't say anything more. According to the rules, you have to accept challenges from at least 3 academies in a row. Of course, there may be more academies that are not convinced by you. You have to accept the challenge unconditionally. Logically speaking, your Wunyan Academy can send out 100 people, but now it seems that the entire Wunyan Academy only has you. That is to say, you may be challenged by these 100 elite disciples in turn. Each academy has a total of 5 people, and the system is 2 wins out of 3. If you lose to any of them, you will be disqualified directly. And during the competition, life and death are allowed. Do you understand? Lu Chen nodded. He was not good at protracted battles now, but the rules were for protracted battles. It was a little troublesome. However, he could not back down now. The Wu Nian Academy must be protected. Lu Chen nodded. Understood. Very good, then. Deacon Han suddenly turned to the audience and said loudly, "Now, the Wu Nian Academy will accept the challenge of the 20 academies. After the challenger wins, he can directly skip the first round of competition." The last sentence had a fatal attraction to all the teams. It was self-evident which was more cost-effective to fight with those 5-person teams of similar strength or to fight with the only person from the Wu Nian Academy. As soon as Deacon Han's voice fell, the representatives of all the teams wanted to fight for this spot. It seems that all 20 academies have signed up. "Kid, how should I address you?" Lu Chen originally wanted to use solipsistic, but suddenly thought of the mountain people's advice and said, "Nameless." "Nameless Dean." "Well, then you can now choose an academy to challenge." Lu Chen thought for a moment. "I can only challenge them one by one." "Ha ha ha, kid, don't worry. The rules restrict them. They can only challenge them one by one. Although the results are the same, you don't have to worry about them swarming up." Deacon Han obviously misunderstood Lu Chen's meaning. Lu Chen shook his head. It seemed that a protracted battle was unavoidable. "Well, I'll take the Ling Xiao Academy." Wang Yao couldn't believe his ears. Out of the 20 teams, that kid chose him. The junior brothers and sisters were excited. It was like taking a direct train to the second round. This luck, ha 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 ha. Wang Yao looked like he had one. The people from the North Pole Academy looked gloomy. Is that guy crazy? Why did he choose the Ling Xiao Academy? Let them enter the second round without any effort. We'll be under a lot of pressure later. It doesn't matter. Wang Yao and Honglian still don't know senior brother's true strength. We'll try not to let senior brother fight in the first 3 rounds. In a corner of the audience area, an old figure was hiding in the crowd with a wine pot in his hand. He looked at the martial arts field with drunken eyes. He looked at the lonely figure on the battlefield. The other disciples were in groups, accompanied by masters and elders of the academy. Only that person had no companions around him. No senior brothers, no master. At this moment, he represented the Wu Nian Academy, the once top academy. At this moment, he was the Wu Nian Academy. "Mountain people, what kind of idiot did you recommend to me?" The old man took another big gulp of wine. "Well, he'll only die on the stage in the end. Just like the Wu Nian Academy, he'll become a laughing stock." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.